Delanco Township Committee Meeting of December 16th, 2024, beginning at 7 p.m. at the Delanco Township Municipal Building, 770 Coopertown Road, Delanco, New Jersey.
December 16th Township Committee Meeting held at 7 o'clock p.m. at the Municipal Building, 770 Coopertown Road in Delanco. Kind of a roll call, please, Janice.
Mrs. Patrick.
Here.
Mr. Olet.
Here.
Ms. Seuss.
Here.
Mr. Templeton.
Here.
Mr. Bartlett.
Here, also present Mr. Schwab, our Township Administrator, Mr. Heinhold, our Solicitor, Mrs. Lohr, our Municipal Clerk, Mrs. Russell, our Deputy Municipal Clerk, and Lieutenant Warren from the Police Department. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The sunshine statement, Janice, please.
Please be advised that proper notice of this meeting has been given in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act in the following manner. Written notice has been mailed to the Burlington County Times and Courier Post and published in the January 4th, 2024 editions. Written notice has been posted on the official bulletin board of the Township of Delanco at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. This meeting of the Delanco Township Committee may be transmitted via live stream on YouTube video. The streaming of the meeting is not intended to be relied upon as formal public access under the Open Public Meetings Act, and if the technology is disrupted for any reason, the Township meeting will proceed in person as an official meeting in accord with the official notice.
Thank you, Janice. Before we begin, Mr. Templeton, can you please step down?
Am I in trouble already?
Good time. Right down there.
This is your fault.
So some of you may know, and this is probably why everybody's here this evening. This is Mike's last Township Committee meeting after 18 years. We have a resolution. I'll read it out loud. Township of Delanco, Resolution 2024-166, honoring Committeeman Mike Templeton. Whereas the Township of Delanco contributes and services so graciously given by those willing to serve their community should not go unnoticed. And whereas Mike Templeton has served this community as a member of the Delanco Township Committee for 18 years, including 3 years as mayor and 1 year as deputy mayor. And whereas the dedication, insight, and knowledge brought to the Delanco Township Committee by Mike Templeton and his tireless work behind the scenes, serving on the Environmental Advisory Board, and also researching subjects such as stormwater regulation, flood management, and Route 130 corridor on behalf of Delanco Township, is surely appreciated by all. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Delanco, County of Burlington, and State of New Jersey, that on behalf of the citizens of the Township of Delanco, the Township Committee does hereby express its gratitude and sincere appreciation to Mike Templeton for his outstanding contributions to the Township of Delanco as mayor and deputy mayor and his many years of service as a member of the Delanco Township Committee. The municipal clerk is hereby directed to spread upon the minutes of this meeting, which this resolution is adopted, the comments of this resolution, so all may understand the high esteem which Mike Templeton and his contributions to the community are held. Congratulations, Mike. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the resolution that we just handed to Mike, Resolution 2024-166.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Fern, second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next item on the agenda, ordinance 2024-26, authorizing acquisition of property at 401 Creek Road, Block 2100, Lot 11, within the Township of Delanco, second reading by title only, and public hearing. Mr. Heinhold, before we open the hearing to the public, would you please read the rules that public comment is governed by?
Sure. In anticipation of a lot of public comment tonight, and in order to make sure that we have time to adequately hear from everyone and do it in an orderly fashion, I'm just going to read the rules that are going to be established tonight for public comment period. Pursuant to provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12, the Delanco Township Committee is entitled to permit, regulate, or prohibit public comment in its meetings, subject to the Act. Public participation and comment shall be governed by the following rules to maintain order and prevent disruption of the meeting. Each speaker will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak and should limit comments to the matter at hand. The speaker will be directed to conclude their remarks once the speaker's time is expired. No time may be yielded to a speaker by another speaker. Groups are asked to select a spokesperson to speak on their behalf. Speakers will address the Township Committee from the podium and are asked to begin their remarks with their name and address for the record. Township Committee members are not obligated to answer impromptu questions or address remarks from members of the public during the public comment period. Speakers should expect the committee to refrain from engaging in a dialogue except to the extent necessary to clarify the speaker's comments. The allotted time frame for speaking from the podium is the method to address the Township Committee during the public comment period. Committee will not entertain questions or comments called out from the audience. Speakers and members of the public should at all times maintain proper decorum and shall make their comments in a civil manner. Personal attacks, obscenity, derogatory, or slanderous remarks will not be tolerated. Thank you for your cooperation in this matter.
Thank you, Doug. With that, I will open the hearing to the public for ordinance 2024-26. As Doug stated, if you have any comments, please approach the podium and give your name and address for the record. I saw Carl's hand first. Come up, Carl.
Carl Tarosky, residing at 55 Bennington Court, Delanco, New Jersey. I would like to call everyone's attention to the fact that I am both a member of the Joint Land Use Commission and a member of the Shade Tree Commission here in town. I'd also like to call people's attention to the diagram that you have on the board, which shows that 140-some trucks are to be parked on the property here, and that it drains into the wetlands area below the property, which then drain into the the Rancocas Creek. I would like to read an article from the Philadelphia Inquirer dated November 29, 2024, which is the basis for why I voted against this application by the applicant for the use of a tractor-trailer rehabilitation area. The article says, wetlands are well known for their extraordinary environmental benefits. Along with providing wildlife habitat and absorbing carbon dioxide in their soil, they also act as filters, siphoning off human waste, chemicals, fertilizers, and other pollutants before they reach rivers and bays. My wife has suggested to me, and I suggest to you, that you proceed with the purchase of this property, but in doing so, perhaps Mr. Schwab can look forward to investigating whether or not there is a program available by the state of New Jersey to preserve wetlands, which would help decrease the cost to us. In any event, I recommend that the township proceed to purchase this property because of the way it drains into the wetlands. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. All right, next.
He's coming up, this guy.
Sorry, I'll get him, then I saw Ray and then Vera. And then we'll.
My name is Frank Dolan. I live at 33 Pennington Court in the Newton's Landing community. The back of our home at 33 Pennington butts up directly to the 401 Creek Road site with a little wooded separation between. Over the years we've lived there, there have been a variety of proposals to occupy that site, and each time we've had concerns and issues regarding how those previous prospective occupants would affect our home life. Those concerns include the obvious proximity to our house at 33 Pennington. Any activity would be very close to our backyard. There would have been an obvious reduction of property values, not only ours, but the entire Newton's Landing community, from the previous outside proposals that were contemplated, especially the latest one regarding the truck and trailer repair proposal. We had concerns about possible substantial increased activity, hours of operation, noise, pollution, etc. We were unsure about the potential increased traffic on the road behind our and close to our house. There's a possible impact on the loss of trees from prior proposals. We have, as I said, a wooded area just behind us. And the disruption of wildlife that often pass through and behind our property. And in general, a combination of unruly nuisance items. In the past, the Township Committee has always considered the interests and concerns of its constituents and supported our community in any needs or emergencies that had unexpectedly surfaced. In turn, we have supported the Township on community projects, school and library participation, bond issues, and similar activities. I think that the initiative to have the Township purchase the 401 Creek Road site is consistent with those considerations and relationships. Some of the potential advantages are the purchase of the site by the Township would stabilize the situation for now and for the foreseeable future. We had a run of additional proposals over the years we've lived here. It would further and certainly alleviate the issues and concerns that we've had with prior outside proposals. Any additional assessment to the citizens would be presumably reasonable and not overly burdensome. But most of all, the Township would benefit, especially considering the flexibility and uses that could be available to it. So therefore, I urge the Township Committee to follow through with this initiative to purchase the 401 Creek Road site. I believe it's a win-win situation for all concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray?
Ray Weber, 22 Ships Way. The 401 Creek Road property has across from it 2 truck repair places already. And between the township here, we have at least between 300 and 500 trailers already parked on our properties along Creek Road, if you look at it. There's a lot of them back there and you don't see them because they hide them behind trees and everything else. We don't need more trucks and trailers sitting out there because those trailers, some of those trailers have been sitting out there for 3-4 years. They've never been moved. This company, they're going to put store 148 trailers, 124 trailers and 24 tractors, they're gonna sit there for a while too. You take down those trees, that hurts the environment and everything else. If you go down Creek Road at 6:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, there's trailers parked on that street because the other places aren't open yet. We've got to do something about that. If they put that in there, they're gonna have the same damn problem again. You look down at Wawa, that parking lot over there is filled with the trailers, the tractors, waiting to come in because the places aren't open yet. So we've got to buy that property, take care of the environment, take care of everything else that we need, because it's our responsibility to take care of the environment. And putting trucks in there and stuff like that, you get more pollution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Ms. Dharma.
Vera Darmo, 605 Hickory Street. I don't really live near there, but I walk Pennington, the park, the trail to Pennington Park. And I was always worried about that area because I saw that the boundary of what was county land, the park land, and what was not, it's very close to the park there. I wish we had a better map. We spend all this money on this nice viewing screen, and I know the Joint Land Use Board projects stuff, so I don't know why it's not projected. But ultimately, you know, do you value nature? Does that make you feel better when you walk in nature? Some people don't care about that at all. So they're not even here, or they just care about their property tax, which is a valid point. And I am a penny pincher. But I would be willing to pay more to preserve land. The problem is with this ordinance is that it doesn't say that it's for any open space preservation. So I want to preserve the land, but I don't understand why, at least for the environmentally sensitive areas, why isn't that set off as, okay, we're definitely going to preserve that for open space. Maybe some of the other areas, okay, maybe we will look to sell that to defray the cost to the township. But this ordinance doesn't say anything about preserving open space. But still, even with that, I'd rather take a gamble with that than lose that property, because that will involve contamination. And if you look at the Joint Land Use Board minutes, which I did look at, they talk about the contamination that will occur, that they'll have to change out the sand because of contamination. I mean, it's a dirty use for that site. And but ultimately, you know, I'm willing to pay to preserve it, and I'm willing to take a gamble on this ordinance. So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Dharma. If anybody else? Ms. Holland.
Okay, Christine Holland, 319 Delaware Avenue. And I'm with Vera. Like, I'm... Sorry.
Put your mouth literally up to the microphone.
I am in favor of preserving this if it were for actual preservation, but it isn't. And the ordinance as written specifically says that it's not going to be part of Green Acres. So I don't really know why we're doing this. If it is for potential contamination, there are federal and state rules that prevent companies from contaminating. So why are we not just holding whatever company comes before the Joint Land Use Board, hold their feet to the fire and say, we're not going to authorize this plan unless you're going to abide by the rules that are already in existence. This $3.5 million plan to come at the taxpayers is just irresponsible. And my last year on Township Committee, when we talked about Rancocas Avenue, we talked about Ash Street, the second parcel, we said that we were not in the business of purchasing property without a plan. And here we are looking at $3.5 million And we're going to ask our residents to foot the bill for that, just on the off chance that someone comes along and purchases it and we feel that they're a more responsible builder. I'm disappointed. I thought that we were better than this, and no one loves nature, trees, spending more time in nature than I do. But this isn't the answer. We need to just be more responsible, have our land use board be more diligent in vetting the companies that are coming before us. And I thank Fern for bringing this to the attention of the town. I feel like at least half the room wouldn't be aware of this if not for that. So thank you, because I think that I'm pretty aware, and I would have missed this one. So thank you. I don't live in my house doesn't abut this property, and I feel for the people in Newton's Landing, but the reality is Creek Road is for industrial building. So, it is what it is. We're trying to do our best for the town, deal with the ratables, but this isn't something that our township committee should be putting money towards right now. So, thank you.
Thank you, Christine. And just for clarification, the Joint Land Use Board already approved the application, so they're not going back to the Joint Land Use Board, anyone that moves into this property.
I didn't hear you.
The Joint Land Use Board already approved the application. So there is no going back to the Joint Land Use Board, and the Joint Land Use Board will look at whoever moves in here, because it was already approved by them.
So there's no sense of us being here.
Come on up. That was Christine.
Todd Burke. I'm at 1506 2nd Street. Thank you, Fern. I pretty much agree with the last speaker. There's no provision for preserving the property for open space. What this does is it helps a couple of people who are worried about property values, but it decreases the tax base for the township, and it increases what the taxpayers are going to be paying, not by the amount specified here, but by all the extraneous costs that are outlined in the sheet that was left at my home, thankfully, so that I'm aware of this as well. And what you have is a piece of property that is being supposed to be purchased for almost twice of what it was sold for 3 years ago. Now, I really want to know who are the principals behind the out-of-state LLC that currently own this property now, and why it is that we feel it's important to harm everybody in the township through their tax bills in return for unnamed out-of-state LLC that's going to gather almost twice as what they paid for it 3 years ago. Makes no sense to me, especially because there's no provision for preserving the property as open space. Exactly right. We're not in the business of buying and selling property. We're in the business of improving the township, and this is not going to improve the township. If there were provisions to improve the township, fine, but it's not. It's simply a bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Who's next? Lori. Sure.
Lori Pfister, 7 Edwards Avenue. Thank you to the people who brought this to my attention. I'm in agreement with the previous 2 speakers. I would love to see preserved open space, but there is no provision for that. I don't know. There have been a lot of projects in town that have negatively impacted myself, the people in my neighborhood, or other people in other neighborhoods in town, and it's unfortunate that these projects went ahead anyway. This decision is being made to benefit a relative few, just as the decisions made that affected me impacted just that relative few, and I do not see the sense in spending all this money when there is no provision to preserve it up for open space, when in a year, we're going to be in the same situation or worse. We don't know what's going to happen with flood zones and with laws regarding that, and I really don't see why I should have to spend $120, $130 extra per year for I don't know how many years to preserve the space to benefit just a few people. So I really urge you to not move ahead with this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah.
Nancy Mutnick, 100 Lilac Lane. I feel, along with the other preserve people, that there isn't a plan for green space. And I'm standing almost eating the microphone. So there isn't a plan for green space. And my taxes would go up about $500 a year. So I feel as though if you're going to do this, I also feel really upset about the fact that if Fern hadn't given out the papers, I wouldn't have known anything about this. And it feels like the school board business with closing Walnut Street, that it took, we don't even know how the news got out, but it got out and we all had to come rush to a meeting only to find out it's a fait accompli. So it feels like it's the same thing here. You're saying the land use board already approved it. So why are we all here? If it's a fait accompli, and things are done that we can't undo, then why bother? Just go ahead and do whatever you want.
Just for clarification, Ms. Muntic, the Land Use Board approved the Criterion's application to do the trailer repair and storage facility. We're here tonight to discuss the purchase of the property.
Yes, but the point is, we already have a problem because you approved their application. So what can we do about it?
Purchase the property, that's the whole point of this application.
Yeah, but don't you see that agreement puts us in a box? We either have a choice of letting them go ahead and put all these trucks on there, or buying the property at this outrageous amount of money. Basically, if you have wetlands that are 4 acres and the whole property is 11 acres, you're now talking about, what, 7 acres? That we're paying probably $500,000 an acre. In what world does that make any sense? So if we're going to do that much money, then it certainly should be for the benefit of the entire town by giving us green space. Not by saying, we're going to buy it, and then maybe somebody more stupid than us is going to come along and pay us $3.5 or $4 million. Really? I mean, who is going to pay $4 million for it? Who knows how many years from now? I'm sorry, I've been sick, so my voice is terrible, but I guess you get the point. If you want us to pay for it, then it should belong to us. Not that we're going to turn into real estate dealers and hope that you're going to get the money back. It makes no sense to me.
Thank you. Just for a further clarification, Nancy, you mentioned that it would be over $500 and change a year increase for you. If you're going by the calculations on the papers that Mr. Ouellette handed out, you're correct. Unfortunately, those aren't the correct calculations at all. The numbers that were on the paper are entirely incorrect.
But that's a small point. I mean, my point is, if we're going to pay for this, then it should be ours.
I'm sorry, can you then tell us what the correct calculation is then?
Yeah, the correct. Come, why don't you come up?
Megan Armstrong, 407 Bellevue. Can you please then tell us what the correct calculation is?
If you use the instructions he gave, it would be divide your assessed value by 2052, not 20.52.
2052.
2052.
And since I'm standing up here, can you also tell us what revenue that the trucking business is going to bring to Delanco?
There would be no revenue for us.
There's no revenue for us.
Just the property taxes. We don't own the property, so we wouldn't get revenue from that.
So what kind of taxes will that bring us?
I couldn't even tell you. That's once the facility is built, then the tax assessor would assess the facility.
Okay. How much taxes or revenue does the
I'm
buil-
sorry,
How much revenue in taxes does the building next to us bring in? The warehouse?
warehouse next door? I have no idea. Actually, what's next door is
Hold on,
780.
we can look.
I could pull it up right here.
Yes, they have the warehouse I'm referring to. Thank you.
The one next door at 780 Coopertown is 195 and change, 195,000 and change.
Currently, 401's taxes are $23,000 a year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. See a hand in the back?
Hello, my name's Harold Kligler, and I live at 509 Buttonwood Street. And the interest that I have in this whole thing is that just recently we had an election, and during that election, we voted on whether to put a roof on a school at $1.5 million. And I know that was a big issue for a lot of people. But here we are at an election and voting on it. And tonight we're here talking about $3.5 million that most people didn't even know about. And I'm just wondering how this happens, that we could go to election for $1.5 million and show up here tonight for $3.5 million that we didn't even know about.
The school board, they are their own operating entity. We have no association with their budget process, their need for a special referendum for any sort of bond like that. That has nothing to do with the township committee here. We do not control the schools. We do not control their budgets.
So I understand that it is separate.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't understand is why the township can spend $3.5 million without really advertising or asking anybody in the general public if that's okay. Because if that's okay, why don't you spend $1 trillion? I mean, why don't we just go for it?
So if I could just interject on
Please,
that.
Doug.
On the legal side of things, the school board has its own separate laws. They have to, on their capital improvement projects, go out to referendum. The municipality does not have the same set of laws governing it. Why the legislature has chosen to do it that way over the years is a valid question, but that is what the law provides. So anytime you see a school project, you're going to see a referendum on it. But municipalities, we've purchased property in the past, we've built buildings in the past, we built this building in the past, that was not part of a referendum process. That's not what the law requires on the local government side.
So that's the part we're missing here. We need a referendum for when the township decides to spend a lot of money. I mean, I would think there would be some kind of maximum. I mean, I've dealt with places where they said, and this is not big as a township, but small places that said, if you're going to spend $500, well, then people need to know about it. Now, that was small clubs and things like that, and I realize this is a township, and I'm guessing it's under the county regulations, which is under the state regulations, which is God knows where it ends, but I would think that...
Oh, come on, check your phone off.
It's a timer, ma'am.
It's a timer, ma'am.
Oh.
Please don't call it like that.
Oh.
Continue, Hal.
I would think that we, in good conscience, that the people of the township should know when we're spending a lot of money, because they're the ones that are spending it.
Right.
And that's exactly why we have these public hearings, so we could hear what the community wants.
Thank you.
And just to
Thank you,
clarify,
Hal.
the school referendum was $3.5 million for the roof, not 1.5. It was 3.5.
But it was voted on.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So we all voted it in, that's fine.
I would like to just add that the township does, in fact, have a website, has a, where every person in this town can sign up at delancotownship.com. All of this is posted, our fact sheets posted. All the information that we do at any of these meetings is posted and available to the residents. We also do email blasts for certain things, so I think that if you're not signed up for our website, you certainly should do so that you receive all the information that we're dealing. This is on our website and has been on there for some time, this fact sheet, so that the residents would be aware of what we're doing. But every month, it's on there, what we're doing. We're not trying to do anything or hide anything from any resident. So the information is available to you. And we meet the first and third Monday of the month, and we welcome all of you to come to any meeting when you have anything you'd like to see addressed or any concerns. So I think that's important that you know that this isn't something we're trying to slip under the table. This is something that we feel will benefit the entire town because of the location between a park and a residential area. So I just wanted to point that out to you, that this has been publicized, and the information that we publicized was correct. Some of this is not correct.
Just to also make another note, this committee in the past 2 years has made sure that these meetings are broadcast live via YouTube and then posted to YouTube as well, so people can watch them that cannot be here. That was not done until we got on committee and insisted, because we know a lot of people cannot attend. So you are able to watch previous meetings and see that we've been talking about this since, I guess, the beginning of November.
Sir. Hi. My name is Tim Kishler. I live at 12 Harris Court over here in Newton's Landing. I've spoke about this before here. I don't have any prepared remarks, but there are 250 or so units in Newton's Landing. We all have a little plot of land there. I can't remember the exact figure of what it's going to cost to buy this land, but while this is going on, I saw something on the internet about Hillsborough, New Jersey, and that they were congratulating themselves, if they will, about the tens of millions of dollars that they spent to keep a couple of warehouses out of their little slice of heaven. And unfortunately for us, the warehouses have already been built here in Delanco. Fortunately for us, they still are unoccupied, because when they start being occupied, if they start being occupied, a lot of people are going to be upset with the degree of traffic and noise and other things that are going on, and then it's going to be too late for that. Regarding this property, it's still not too late. We can still do something. And just to get back to the residents at Newton's Landing, there are 250 of us or so. We pay about $10 million $10,000 in taxes, and we don't have any kids going to schools here, and we don't go play ball in the ball fields. But that's how taxes work. You pay the tax, and everybody benefits. And this is going to be a benefit to everyone, whether you know it or not, and whether you like it or not. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I think he's coming up this one.
Coming up? All right. Then you. I see your hand.
Scott Buke, 18 Pennington Court. You should pretty well know me by now. Mr. Templeton, you had mentioned, I think, at the last meeting that the open space, Green Acres money from the county hasn't been used for a while. Has any progress been made or any calls to the county asking what's going on with that money?
As far as the county, no, but the state, New Jersey Green Acres Fund opens up in February for applications, yes.
So that seems like it would be something to obviously focus on come the new year. I'm a new resident in Newton's Landing, but I did share the same zip code for 34 years over in Delran, so I pulled last year's tax bill out. And for the county open space, I paid $83. Now, no, that's not a lot of money, but times 34 years and something less of that over the years, that's a lot of money for however many people are in Tempe Chase or in Delran, let alone in Riverside, let alone in Delanco. And I think that I think it's time that they come up with the money. To the people that think it might be kept as an industrial site, I don't think there's any intention to clear the property. There's been mention about the current barns and some of the facilities on there that could be used to the benefit of Delanco because they need some space. One thing that always frustrated me in Delran is I'd see millions of dollars of equipment just parked outside when not being used. It needs to be covered up. That saves a lot of money in the long term. And then I can also see a big majority of that property being maintained as open space. But unfortunately, the land use didn't give us a whole lot of time to plan ahead for this, kind of dropped it in everybody's lap. And so for the people that are here tonight that are frustrated that they didn't hear anything about it, it's been rather hectic for the last, 90 days, 3 months or so, trying to get this all together. And I'm a newbie here. And it's frustrating the hell out of me too. As for the letter that a councilman apparently put in a lot of people's doors, I did not get one. I sure wish I had gotten one because I'd like to see the numbers. I think that was really a cheap shot in the way that that was handled.
I apologize, sir. I covered close to 98% of the town. Yes, there are probably 325 houses that I was not able to walk. I walked the entire town. Unfortunately, I did not finish up Pennington Court, and then there was over in the main section of town near the school, I believe it's Fenimore and Magnolia, I think were the streets over there. I have a map.
That's okay. I mean, maybe on the township website would have been better or something else, but, you know, I'm getting blindsided.
The correct flyer that the township issued is on the township website.
It is.
With the correct information.
But his flyer was not.
No, because we didn't even, I first saw his flyer when he put it on my door.
Well, that's.
It has some correct information.
Well,
yeah.
It's just
I'm not sure why we would put in.
Because I'm taking responsibility for what I put out. I put my name on it, okay? This side here, all the written stuff, the typed stuff in the back is on the township website.
Right.
Okay? This here were my notes, because at the township meeting, when this was brought up, I committed to try and put some facts and numbers together. This was the best that I could do. It may not be good enough, but this is what I had. And I felt, because you folks are my boss, and if I had to explain to my boss that I was going to spend $3.5 million and how's it going to go? Well, hey, boss, you know, they said property is worth $4 million, okay? But I'm going to get it for $3.5 million. Isn't that a great deal? Oh, yeah, okay? But we have cost in there. We're going to spend $175,000 to bond it. And then we have interest of $157,000. Oh, it gets better. I've got all these other expenses, but I don't know how much it's going to be. You know what my boss is going to tell me?
Go back to the land use board and tell them that the decades that they've spent putting things together for the township benefited all the people where it hasn't. So this property just, I mean, it's going to affect everybody. Again, we've talked about the kids in the playing fields. I don't know how the DEP ever allowed it to be approved. And from the land use and the things that got passed that night when they passed it, it just boggles the mind how it got through. So don't blame them for asking for the price that they want to get for it. If that's what they want to get for it, it never should have gotten to that point in the beginning.
In hindsight, years ago, we probably should have zoned that as open space or future open space or park or recreation and made that part of our master plan. But that wasn't what occurred. Here, the developer came before the Joint Land Use Board. There was some going back and forth. We tried to change, or we did change, from an I-2 zone to an I-3 zone for that area. Again, trying to prevent further warehouse building over in that area. Okay? The developer came in, and he's not tearing down the main warehouse or the building that was Friends of Cyrus in the front. Okay? If you look at the layout that he has there, the storm water piece and all the drainage, okay, he's got to spend money for that. When I walked the site with Brian, I think it's Tomos, I asked him, I said, how much is it going to cost you to take care of all the water regulations and stuff? And he said, $2 million is what it's going to cost him to do that. And I'm going to put Mr. Schwab on the hot seat for a second there, because he was standing there when the gentleman gave me that figure. Okay, so he's got $2 million to clean up that site. Yes, they're taking out trees, but they're putting in 700 more trees in there. And you take a look at the plan. That's the landscaping plan. And the berms and the trees that they're putting in there, they're trying to buffer Newton's Landing, mainly along the back of the property. Okay? If you take a look at that, I think that'll say a lot.
Would you like some of the buffers that are in some of these new main warehouses up here in your front yard or your backyard?
The backyard, yes, because then with that screening that's there, or at least what I've seen on the blueprints, all right, and having walked the site, I'd rather look at that than what you currently have there now. There are trailers back there, there's a house, there's a garage, there's propane tanks, you have a house that's got an oil tank in the ground, or inside the house, and they weren't able to do the environmental study on that, sir.
And you want to look at 125 probably white trailers back there? You have stormwater management here that you're going to talk on next. And you talk about the grit and the dirt and the salt that these trucks will bring down the road in addition to what's already doing it. I've gone to Produce Junction and I come back straight across 130 and I come down through, I guess it's Beverly, down Coopertown, whatever. I am appalled by the trucks from the industry coming out of even Delanco that go up there, don't even go to the Wawa jug handle. They go beyond to come out because of the truck traffic going on. Stormwater management, you might as well throw it out for that property and all. It doesn't, you're not equaling things out. You say one thing here, you're doing something else here. Totally contrary against each other. It just doesn't make sense to let this thing go through. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And again,
Thank you, Mr. Buick.
I apologize for interrupting you, but I felt I had to clear up my
I wish I
flyers.
had known before I got here, so.
All right.
Many people did, so.
Okay. Who's next? Raise your hand. Mr. Sickler?
Brett, 800 Pennsylvania.
For the record, his last name's Sickler?
Sickler, yep. So I know a lot of people, they have a problem with these trucks. We live in a world today where we all want to get on our phones and we want to order something, we want it here tomorrow. These trucks carry all that. It's the business. All these townships are against these trucks. Nobody wants trucks, but without these trucks, we wouldn't have any of this stuff. We wouldn't be able to go to the store, our food, our goods. These townships are pushing these trucks out. I mean, it's approved for it. I don't know why we're in the business of buying up property. If we don't like something that's going to go in there, we're just going to buy up the property. It starts here, and we're going to continue to do this on the tax dollar. I think it's crazy. I think, Fern, I appreciate you leaving that thing at everyone's house, because I wouldn't have known about it either, so that's just my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, Mr. Sickler. Who's next? Come on up.
Thanks, sir.
David Suter at 725 Delaware Avenue. I do feel the pain and disconnect that Newton's Landing might have about this project. But there's so much going on that seems a little bit hinky. We do zoning in order to master plan and follow plan and make sure that things are done in a judicious way. This thing has been zoned industrial since what, 1968? The land use board is not the big, mean, bad person here. Basically, somebody came to them with a plan, and it met the zoning, and they got the pushback that they needed from our township in order to make sure they're going to take care of storm drain stuff, if it happens. And it got approved by the board, which is not necessarily a bad thing, and it's not necessarily a good thing. It's just the way it should work. You guys should have changed the zone a long time ago if you wanted that to happen. What we have now is you guys walking into the middle of it saying, it's not going to be open space, we don't know what it's going to be, but it won't be a trucking plant. That's unfair to your taxpayers for a couple of reasons, and it's not the fact that we don't control the school board, and yeah, we're all going to pay a little bit more money to their capital project, but you're doubling that up on us by coming back to it with your project, and you're a little bit tone deaf about that right now. When you say it's only a couple $100 to this person or a couple $100 to that person, you're going to double whatever the bond payment's going to be for these 2 different projects. And I get it, you don't have any responsibility for the school board. But you guys know the school board is not nearly done fixing things that they need to fix. They have some horrific problems that they haven't solved in the last decade. It's not on you, but this whole thing that's going on with the entire town coming out has something to do with that. So you have to answer the question, what are you going to do with this property? Not just, we'll hang on to it until something better comes along. Because you're asking us to dig into our pockets and shell it out. And this sort of smacks of the Scarlett O'Hara public planning. Fiddle-dee-dee, I'll think about it tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. Before you come to us and ask for money, have a plan, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Suter. Next, please, raise your hand. Ma'am in the back.
Jean Smith, 1113 Burlington Avenue.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Jean Smith.
Jean Smith.
Keep
Just keep the microphone down. We're not going to be able to hear you.
Keep it down?
Yep,
Yeah,
right
okay.
to your mouth.
Okay. My question is, you keep saying that it's going to benefit the whole town, and I really came here with an open mind. But I don't see how it's going to benefit the whole town. Everything I've heard tonight makes me think it's not. So can you explain to me how it's going to benefit the whole town?
Well, I'll add some comments for you. Number one, Dave Suter made a good point in saying that it should have been rezoned years ago, and it wasn't.
Right.
It should not be an industrial site between a residential development and a park where our children play.
Right.
So that is the first thing that we would do when we purchase it, is to change the zoning. The reason why we aren't clarifying it as total open space, number one, if we use open space money, we can't use it for anything else but open space. There is a building in the front that we may be able to utilize for our facilities, for storage, for recreation, for the history board. So there are things that we would like to utilize that property for. And also, down the road, we may need to have more housing to take care of our affordable housing that's coming up. I mean, you have to think about these things. So, but if we use open space funds, which may not even be available to us, it's totally open space. It's open to the entire public, not just Delanco. And they have certain rules.
Forever.
So,
Yeah.
yes,
Forever.
They stay with the property. But what we feel is a good use for this property is for Delanco to purchase it to stop this tractor trailer truck repair. They would even stack trailers. It would benefit this entire town for our children if we have to expand our park and if we had to have more housing back there to actually protect the wetlands. There's so many things that we could do that we can't put it all in one plan right now because they're options, and we have to take that into consideration and decide what we want to do with it. When we bought the mansion, we didn't buy the mansion thinking we were going to sell it originally.
Right.
We wanted to preserve that for the town to utilize that building.
And I understand that because of where it's located.
Exactly.
That's a very different.
But what we did get out of that purchase was we got a riverfront park.
Right.
And we got 27 affordable housing senior units in there, apartments, and we got a good tax base.
No, I agree. That was a good
So,
purchase.
I mean, there
This one
has
I
to be a vision, and it's not like we're trying to take tax dollars just to willy-nilly. We're not doing that. We're thinking for the future. And an industrial site does not belong between those two. And unfortunately, the zoning should have been changed years ago. It wasn't. So we're going to try to correct the situation. And I think it will benefit all the people in this town, not just the people that live there. I think it will benefit all the residents in the long run.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Hal, we got, hold on, there's people in the room that still got to go. You already went, so. Is there anyone in the room that has? Sir? No, Carl, behind you. Carl, behind you.
Peter.
Peter, I'm sorry.
Peter.
It's Peter.
Yeah.
I don't know Peter.
So, I wouldn't dare interrupt him. Peter Silverberg, 30 Wolverton Place. I'm going to talk about trucks and the baseball field, the other side of the property. We all know Newton's Landing, we've got a good complaint, but you're going to have trucks parked there, a baseball field, no place for the deer and the antelope to play, so they're going to go on the baseball field and chop it up. Kids will have broken legs. Now, that's one of these things you don't think about. The noise, they're going to get the balls stuck between the trucks. They're going to get washed out to sea. And I'm just saying, so you're not just benefiting one side, it's the park on the other side, and a park is for everyone. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Mr. Silverberg. Mr. Vogel.
Joseph Vogel, 224 Rancocas. I kind of think you are doing this willy-nilly because you're backpedaling. You don't have a plan in place. You're just telling us what you're really going to do. And I get you're doing it for the township. You think, and I get that. And I'm all about open space. But I pay a county tax for open space. If you didn't already look into that, you should have already had that in place. If you're going to spend $3.5 million, and it's going to be a lot more than that, you know that in the long run, of taxpayers' money, the taxpayers should vote on it. That's all I'm saying.
The one thing about the county, Jay, I'd like to tell you is that most of the park that we did, we got county grants on. They used to do municipal grants every year. They haven't done any municipal grants in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. But the county isn't purchasing anything right now. But we would like to address them and have them actually purchase the wetlands. I mean, it would make sense that they should have them, the wetlands, because it's all back there. I mean, the county trail and everything.
That would be township money.
Yeah, exactly.
We did actually already reach out to the county about that.
Yeah, we've reached out to the county on other purchases as well. Yeah, it should have been done, but I guess it wasn't even thought about, to tell you the truth. And I'm not a land use person. I'm not on the Joint Land Use Board. I don't know joint land use law. I worked for a law firm for 40 years, but that was one phase I didn't work in. But it was obviously an oversight, not necessarily of this committee, but happened years ago. And I don't think the use that's in there now was not that invasive, apparently, but it will become invasive.
So I just want to make a comment about, we don't have a plan, this is willy-nilly, we're backpedaling. So this is all moving very quickly. Once they got their approvals and we sat down and we thought about it and we heard, the outcry from the public about the facility, we said, why don't we look into purchasing this? And this was literally in October when they got their approval. So we sat down and said, we have an obligation, we should look into purchasing this, making sure this repair facility, this truck storage facility doesn't go here. It's not a good use, it's not a good rateable, it's in a terrible area. We don't need more truck traffic because let's face it, once those warehouses are occupied, there's going to be a lot more truck traffic. And then we're going to have this facility on top of it. And then you have 450 and 500 across the street that are currently empty, that are approved for trucks. So we're talking a lot more trucks. And I don't want to see you all in 2 years going, why didn't the township do something about it? We're trying to be proactive now and do something about it. When I got on this committee, the first month I got on this committee 2 years ago, I took the opportunity to rezone the entire I-2 and I-1 zone and made it I-3 to make sure no more warehouses were permitted in this town. Unfortunately, I came into this picture a little too late, and those warehouses were built on cornfields. And I couldn't do anything about it, but I made sure there's no more warehouses in this town. I did that. And I also don't want to make sure there's a truck repair facility next to the creek, next to the park, and next to Newton's Landing. We don't need trucks going in and out of there. You guys know when you go around that curve in the DMV and you're going to have a truck pulling out of there, you're going to have to slam your brakes on, and it's going to take them 5 minutes to get to the speed that they need to. And nobody wants to be stuck behind these trucks, and it's going to happen because we have these warehouses. So we have a vision, but we don't have a concrete plan yet because literally this is 2 months old. We have some ideas. We can't obviously classify it as open space because then we're restricted to open space for the rest of the life of the property. And then we have to carry those costs, regardless if we can afford it or not. So we have some ideas, and we want to do what's best for the town long term. Trust me, I don't want anybody to have to pay more money in taxes, but honestly, it's a quality of life issue, and it will benefit the town in the bigger picture. So that's my spiel for right now.
Yes.
If there's anyone who has not yet spoken and would like to. I promise that, Hal, I'll get to you as soon as the people who haven't spoken. Real quick one? Come on up, Hal.
Speak up.
Right into the mic.
Yeah, this might be a question for the solicitor.
I'm sorry, we know who you are, but just for the
This is
stenographer.
Harold Klingler, 509 Butwood Street.
Thank you.
And this may be a question for, I guess, the solicitor. And that we talked a lot about the zoning and what we should have done about the zoning at one time, but we didn't. And then I just heard that, will we buy this property? If we buy this property, we'll rezone it. Is there any law or rule or says that we can't rezone it right now?
Well, we could pass an ordinance to amend the zoning, but the property owner is entitled to rely upon their existing approvals. So it would have effect on paper only, meaning that they'd still have the ability to pursue what they just had approved.
Right, because they would have,
They have vested rights.
right. But then when they were gone,
That use is not tied to the user, it's tied to the property. So they could sell it for that continued use.
Okay, so then, all right, so now, that's what I didn't understand. Okay.
And we also can't just rezone one property, that's called spot zoning, and that's not permitted.
Right.
Right, okay,
Yep.
it's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Schofield, 230 Walter Avenue. Kate, you mentioned something about, what's it called,
Open space?
not open space, my mind just went. COLA.
Affordable housing.
Affordable
Thank you.
housing.
How much open space do we have now that in the future we would be forced to put COA in?
Our open space is not subject to COA because
Well,
it's
I
green
said open
acres.
space. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is, you said that if we purchase that property, that in the future it could be used for affordable housing.
If the new numbers are coming out now, and Delanco will be charged with something, but we've been very proactive where we even have credits. So, but where do you put it?
Well, that's my question.
Do you mean vacant land? Not open space, but vacant land?
don't have-
Yes, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Vacant land.
We don't
But
have-
can they force you to do it in industrial land that's open?
Yes.
That's my question, okay.
Yes.
My other question is, with Fern's document that I received, I know we're buying this to 3.5 million, but can you put in a guessing amount, an estimate on other fees that we might be required to, do we have to take the oil tank out if there's one there? Is that the responsibility of the property owner or the seller? I mean, there's a list of things here, engineering costs, closing costs, planning costs, demolition costs. Is there any amount that you can?
So Steve, we have what's called a due diligence period to where we will have environmental studies done, investigative studies, and engineering studies, and Doug can speak more about how that works exactly.
Yeah, I mean, assuming if the governing body proceeds with the ordinance to authorize the acquisition, the next step would be that we would negotiate a formal agreement of sale that would have a number of provisions about due diligence to ensure that, we're not inheriting problems, environmental issues in particular. If we discover those, it can be either the sale is not going to occur, or there's further discussion about what the cost of acquisition would be. I think a lot of the costs that are being raised could be potential costs if the township was going to affirmatively do some construction on the site. My view, and I can talk a little bit more about this later, I don't want to take too much time for public comment, but we talk about the zoning along there. That was all industrial zone at one point. This wasn't zoned affirmatively industrial. Everything else around it, the field, before it was a field, was zoned industrial. Newton's Landing, those areas were not intended to be residential initially. So what happened was everything kind of changed around it, and that, sometimes we see the missing tooth. Well, this was the tooth that was left, basically. And so the response, I think, from the community is the concern about the impact it's going to have on that side of the street, and that really that whole side of the street is not industrial anymore, and that shouldn't be the use there. If the town decides not to purchase the property, you will get the use that was approved by the land use board. You will get the truck repair facility. It will be an active use. Those sites are in demand, unlike empty warehouses, which I don't know any of us can still figure out why exactly that's happening, but it's happening. And so there will be an impact, I think, that's a significant change from what has been happening previously. For years, Mr. Kennedy had that site. Some of you may know him. He's a solo operator, if you will. He's not a large corporation. They're not leasing out to large tenants. So I do think there will be a significant change if that use goes forward on that site. And to the point that's about sort of future planning, the governing body, and I do think it's somewhat like the mansion which we lived through, we can, if we don't do this, we know what we're going to get, and it's going to be permanent. It's going to be there for decades to come. if the acquisition happens, at least we can hit the pause button and say, okay, we're not going to have an industrial use on this site. Portion of it could be for open space and preservation. We already know there's wetlands restrictions as you approach the creek. A portion of it could be for future housing needs. Again, the township, this whole state of New Jersey is under affordable housing obligations. Those rounds come out every 10 years. It's a demand on the town. It's a cost on the town. Having a piece of property to address that is good planning. I do think that the highest and best use for that property, maybe somewhat portion of it will be residential. If you look at, sort of the transition from Newton's Landing and up the street, it would make some sense. So I think what the governing body, at least most of the conversations I've been involved in, and I've been working mostly with the subcommittee, who are the two members to my right, it's not about putting us in a situation where we're going to be locked in long term, and that we need to have the flexibility to be able to say, okay, we're not going to let this use happen. That doesn't mean the property has no value. If we put it in an open space, we're locked in, so we're not going to go that route. It doesn't mean a portion of it may not in the future, but maybe that's a discussion for after acquisition. And that this will give us time to sit down when we don't have an aggravated or aggrieved other party on the other side of the table and say, okay, now we can plan for this site in a way that's not going to have a negative impact on Newton's Landing, on the fields, and hopefully over time, whether that means sale of portion it back to suitable uses, recoup some of those costs, if not all those costs.
Now, I came here with an open mind. I know the sale price is 3.5, but I guess one of the main things is how much additional expense that we don't know yet. Is it going to come out to 4 million at the end, or 4.5 million? That's an open question that concerns me. But thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. See a hand in the back. Yep.
Thank you. Mike O'Donnell, 17 Emery Way. Someone mentioned that it's only for a select few. Imagine she's referring to Newton's Landing. Newton's Landing residents, by my figures, about $2.3 million in taxes that we pay to the county, and Delanco, of course, gets some of that. Not much, but some. So I don't think it's a select few. It's about 500 residents when you take in spouses.
It's 17% of our tax roll.
Okay.
Is Newton's Landing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The Land Use Board, I feel they could have stopped this if they didn't make the concessions. There were quite a few concessions to this land which made the property bigger. So these people are saying, just keep it the way it was. It's not. It's like taking an airport and saying it's only general aviation. And somebody comes in and reimagines and says, we're going to extend the runway. Now it's going to be jets. And this is the same thing. We're making that property bigger. Also, on the mansion, my question with that, there are homes built around the mansion. Did the township get any profit from those sales? Okay.
Yes.
So this is possible that we could be...
Plus, those homes are on the tax rolls.
Right.
We also received, as part of the sale of the mansion to Grapevine, we received a sum certain for each one as it was built. And I believe it was $2,000 each or $2,500 as each townhouse was built. We got that in addition to the sale price.
Huh.
Plus, we kept the waterfront property.
Right, so we're thinking that maybe this could be transferred into some sort of residential, and if we do that, we're going to get revenue from it.
Yes.
And lastly, I'll just say, as a parent, if I see my child made a mistake, I see that somebody made a mistake years ago not to, and that's fine. But do we let the child continue with the mistake? We try to correct it. And I commend you for trying to correct something that was wrongly done to the township. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell.
I just want to also make a note. It's my opinion that if we do rezone as residential, that it would be age-restricted residential to make sure there's no impact on the schools with any more additional children.
Next up, yeah, hand over there. Okay. Come on.
Yes, hello. My name's Joan Racino, 730 3rd Street, Delanco, New Jersey. So, we're here, but this plot of land is already purchased?
No.
No.
That's why we're here, to talk about entering into agreement to purchase it.
I thought you said it was already purchased. It's a done deal.
We never said that whatsoever. We
Okay.
said that the Joint Land Use Board approved Criterion's application for the car repair or the truck repair and storage facility.
Well, I don't think it's a good idea. You have, what about these buildings right adjacent to the municipal building?
Mhm.
Are they occupied?
No.
No.
What don't you think's a good idea? Which
The
part?
purchase of the property or putting the
Truck-
repair facility
yeah.
there?
I don't think it's good to put another building up, big building that's not used. If you ever go past Edgewater Park, see the square up there? None of those buildings are in use. The builder backed out. So how do we know that's not going to happen?
I mean, that's what we're trying to prevent here tonight.
Right.
That's
Okay,
what
well,
we're-
I don't think it's a good idea. I'm 77 years old. I can't afford my taxes to go up. That's my big deal.
So
I'm confused.
I'm confused. You're saying you don't want us to, you don't want the facility there, but you also don't want your taxes to go up. So I'm not sure what your
Yeah, I don't want
opinion
that
is.
there.
You, say it again?
I don't want that in back of Newton's Landing.
That's what we're trying to
That's what we're trying to
prevent.
prevent.
We're
That's-
trying to buy the
that's
land
the whole
so that
purpose of
it
this.
doesn't
Yeah,
go
but you're
there.
buying the land, it's costs a lot of money. That's going to go to the taxpayer.
So the option then is to let them build the facility, which you're saying you don't want. You don't want either. I mean, I would love neither as well. I'm not sure where we're going here, Mrs. Racino.
Explain that again.
You're saying you don't want that truck repair facility over there, correct?
Doesn't the ground get, like Bud's gas station?
Like
When that's
Contaminated?
Contaminated?
That's a certain possibility in the future. Anything is, I can't predict the future, but that's certainly a possibility. But,
And then there's a cleanup?
right, but you're saying you don't want us to purchase it as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
duly
But-
noted.
So how do we know if it's going to be purchased or not? Come back in 2 weeks?
No.
No, there'll-
stick
there'll
around.
be- there'll be a
I
vote
am
this
guilty
evening.
of not coming to the,
It'll be voted on tonight.
Correct.
oh, it'll be voted on tonight by you guys?
Yes.
And
That-
you people have been here turning over every year.
No.
No.
Yes.
We have 3-year
We
terms.
just-
Maybe you're.
We just gave Mike an
new-
award for being here 18 years. Kate's,
Yeah, he's been here for 18
and we know,
years.
and we know
Kate's
Kate's been here for 22 years. She tells us that all the
Okay,
time.
that's what I'm
We love you,
saying.
Kate.
Fern's been here
Fern's
20
been
years.
here 20-something
You're the
years.
same people that keep turning over.
I just got here 3 years ago. My term ends in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And Ms. Seuss got
Oh,
here
you're
2
the
years
mayor.
ago.
Hi, I'm the deputy mayor. Yes.
You're a deputy mayor.
Yes.
What are you, Kate?
I'm a township committee person. I'm
No,
proud to
good
be.
for you. Well, I don't agree with any of this.
Okay.
All right.
Because I won't be able to live in Delanco anymore, because I'm going to have to get out and move myself.
Well, we hope that doesn't happen.
Pardon?
We hope that doesn't happen.
Oh, well, it is. I live on my social security.
Thank you
Thank
so
you, ma'am.
much.
Okay, anybody else?
Next. I see you, Carl. I'm trying to get to anyone who hasn't been up yet.
Raise your hand high. Anybody else?
I promise I'll get back to you, Carl.
Good evening. My name is Charles Gross. I live at 35 Walton Way. First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to have this dialogue this evening. I think it's very beneficial. The other issue is that, again, there's nothing that's been cast in stone yet. And even if the vote goes towards purchasing the property, the opportunity that exists through the process of due diligence may come about such that you determine that it's not a viable solution and you decide to turn away from the situation, in which case the approval will go forward. In that case, I think we need to have the most appreciation and fortitude of our planner and our engineers who are responsible to see the oversight of the development as it's completed, and know that they'll hold the developer accountable for all the aspects of soil management, stormwater management that are required and do cost a significant amount of money. As far as going forward, I think it's a great opportunity to reevaluate the situation. In preparation for tonight, I've looked at Creek Road realignment studies, master plan examinations, redevelopment plans, all of which identify that this property, as it currently exists, is in its best use as it's been identified. But on the other hand, as a developer myself, I see the opportunities that a piece of property this holds as things change in the future. So as you look at the possibility of changing its use from industrial to residential, I think you need to look at also the zoning, the density of the property. I've seen it identified as low density. I think the greatest best use is a higher density for seniors. There's a beautiful project on Centerton Road in Moorestown called Parker's Bend. That this is a gateway to Delanco. A project like that would be a true winner. But it seems like you have a fair understanding of what's going on, and appreciate you taking the opportunity here in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. Carl, you're going to stare me down till you get up to that microphone, so come on up.
Thank you. Sorry to bother you folks again.
No bother.
But Carl Sarosky at 55 Bennington Court. I've heard both sides now from the audience. Those who say, don't raise my taxes, I can't afford it. And those who say, you know, we have to look at the future. We have to understand how, as a group of people, we have to move forward.
You're good.
And in doing so, we have to do in a way that protects our own health. I heard some people say, I'm such and such years old and I need my health. But your health comes from not polluting the waterway. And unfortunately, as you've all mentioned, a decision many years ago left us in an area where it did cause a pollution when it was to be developed as the current applicant has applied for it and received approval from the Land Use Board, of which I voted against it. Why did I vote against it? As I said before, for the protection of everyone. And that may cause us temporarily to increase our taxes. My first real estate taxes were after I was married for 2 years and rented an apartment, and I moved into Willingboro, a brand new house that cost me $10,500, brand new. Today, I pay something like $10,200 a year in taxes. And I don't mind, although I have only my Social Security, I'm retired, that's it. But for the benefit of all of us, we have to buy this property and see how it works out in the future. And I'm going to have to pay my taxes, even if I don't like to. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Okay. Pam.
Hi. I was a little shy about coming up. Susan Rexon, I live at 208 Larchmont Drive. I want to thank Fern for going out on that rainy night and putting that on my doorstep, because otherwise I would not have known about this. Even though I know it's on the Delanco website, sorry. I live my life and I don't do that. And I want to thank everybody on the committee for everything that you do for this township. It is a wonderful place to live, and it is the gem of the Delaware River. And the waterway and the watershed of the Rancocas Creek have always been a part of my life. And I support the purchase of this property. As a realtor, I have some questions about the process. And in reading this, and some of my questions have been answered tonight. Criterion Group is an investor from New York, and I'm sure that they have other buyers. And I have to be honest, when I got this, I called one of my clients.
I'm sorry?
I called a client of mine to purchase this. So there's going to be other purchasers out there. And as we as a township are trying to make a decision on what to do with this, there are other investors out there that will be purchasing this property. I'm a little confused about the price, the 3.5. I understand there was an appraisal, but there's been no formal offer made, and there's been no counter offer. There's been no mention of contingencies in that offer that the seller would be responsible for. The remediation, if there's buried oil tanks, that should be a seller. There should be some concessions financially to help the township with that. I think that in the future, looking forward, we can't look backwards. This is a very smart and good move. I really appreciate the corrected figure of 2,052 and not 20.52, because that would have meant my taxes would have been going up over $2,000 for the year.
Right.
So that, all these people that got that flyer, if they did the math, they would probably be very concerned. So I did get that answer. Those that aren't going to look at the website, I don't know, put it on the little flashing thing you go by at 40 miles an hour, make the correction. But I do want to say thank you, and I would say do the due diligence as quickly as possible, put aside some of those costs that are part of the purchase onto the seller.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you.
And just so you're aware, we will be, I'm sorry?
Doug's gonna.
Oh, Doug's going to
yeah.
talk? Okay, he's probably going to say the same thing I was
Yeah,
going to
so
say, but
Doug,
go
let-
ahead,
go
Doug.
ahead, Doug.
No, what did you want to say real quick?
I was going to say that our contract will have a due diligence
Yeah.
period where we will be able to do any of the environmental studies and anything else we need to do out there to determine if the property is a good purchase for us, to make sure we're not going to get into a hole. Our contracts Mr. Heinhold is an expert negotiator, and he will be negotiating all the terms that protect the township into the contract.
So it's a little different than residential. I don't know if you do commercial and residential, but we have to do a letter of intent first. We have to pass resolutions and ordinances before we can sign that contract. So that's part of the process.
Right, right, I do appreciate that. And not knowing what contingencies you can and cannot put onto the seller, I don't know how flexible they are, but I do have industrial purchasers right now, and this is a good value for those people that don't know. The 3.5 million is a good value, and if we look forward, and the township owns this property, we have control over this property, and then we can take our time to do what you have to do to get funding from whomever to take care of open space, watershed, things like that. In the future, we're going to need housing. We're not getting smaller. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rex. Doug, did you want to chime anything in there, or did that cover it?
I just want to add a couple of things because there's been some discussion about value. A couple of key points, I think, are we all know that industrial property value, whoever has their hand up, you can just start coming up to them. Mayor, you can probably call them out. I don't want you to have to hold your hand up the whole time I'm talking. I'm an attorney. I'm usually not super concise with what I say.
Can I say something, please?
Oh.
If you want to spend money, get some new microphones so people can hear what's going on.
They're
We literally just bought them.
I just want to say, man, before you speak, a couple things about value. The assessment on this property and other industrial properties, we know it's underassessed. That is true probably for a lot of properties across the town, but particularly for the industrial sector, not just in Delanco, but across the state. As reassessments eventually happen, that will ultimately equalize out. But my point is the current assessed value is not really a good indicator of value. There's also indication that the property was purchased for $2 million. It was also purchased as part of a portfolio sale, meaning it included other properties. All of that sale was marked non-usable by the county tax board because when you have 3 properties, they allocated for financing purposes how they wanted to lay out the values. It's not true to market value. We did confer with a commercial appraiser, Jerry McHale's office. They're very well known in this area and across all of South Jersey and probably the state. Worked with them many times. I have a lot of confidence in their opinion. We did get, because this is moving quickly, we did get them to do an analysis and provide a verbal report back to us that supports what's been represented, which is that they believe the property is worth at least $4 million and that the negotiations with the property owner were with that information in hand.
Thank you, Doug.
Hey, me?
Your turn.
Okay, Mary Ellen Davison. I'm sorry, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Thank you.
Let's talk right into the microphone.
Mary Ellen Davison, 216 Center Avenue. When I got this leaflet, when I came home Saturday night from the mansion, I read through it very carefully. Then I went back through it again. I read the issues part, where you said you had issues about the reason that you wanted to deal with this. But I'm not seeing, maybe it's just me, but I'm not seeing anything that's telling me that you have resolutions to these issues. And I think $3.5 million is a lot of money to spend, and I'm very concerned about the area that Fern was talking about, where he couldn't fill out the numbers of all these other expenses that are going to come with it, on top of the $3.5 million. You all know what I'm talking about? You all saw the paper, all those empty spots? What are they going to cost the taxpayers? Is that going to cost the taxpayers too? I mean, is that something we're going to have to pay for in the future on top of the tax increase already to purchase the property?
I don't know. Some of them won't be. I would think some of them would be considered the seller's responsibility.
I'm sorry, what?
I would think some of them would be considered the seller's responsibility.
So I'll just briefly address some of the immediate costs. There will be closing costs, just like any real estate transaction.
And where does that come from?
That will be part of the township's expense and also the seller's expense in getting to the closing table.
And if the township is paying the expenses, does that mean the taxpayers are paying that expense?
Yes, but what I would say in relation to the 3.5 million purchase price, it's not a sea change in value. Engineering costs, environmental costs, we're going to do our due diligence. Just like any transaction on a significant piece of property, we're going to pay our professionals to make sure that we're not buying a problem. Every deal is entered with the understanding that we're buying a clean piece of property. If it turns out that it's not a clean piece of property, there will be further discussions.
What do you mean by clean, sir?
Not contaminated.
No contamination, no
Okay.
environmental problems, nothing that needs to be a subject of further expense or
Has that been
concern.
determined yet?
No, that will be part of the pre-closing process.
Okay.
The only other thing I will say, ma'am, is that a lot of the other costs that are listed, if the township decides, for example, to do something with the property in terms of an affirmative project, there may be planning costs. If they decide that one of the buildings needs to come down rather than selling it off to somebody and letting them deal with that issue, there could be demolition costs.
And that goes to the taxpayer through the township also?
Ultimately, yes. Yes, but I think in those costs, in terms of the overall cost of the $3.5 million purchase price, are not so significant that it will change that 3.5 million figure into something drastically higher.
Well, I don't know how significant it will be, but I'm also living on a Social Security and a small pension. And at this point in my life, I'm alone, taking care of my house, and I struggle to make sure that I can pay my taxes now. So if the taxes are going to go up and then they're going to continue to be added to for all these other things that are coming along after the fact, that's going to be a real problem, not only just for myself, but I'm sure other people who are living on a limited income and just don't have any other way to bring money in. Now, I don't disapprove of buying the property and keeping it for the township, but I think you guys need to get yourselves together and decide what you're going to do with the property so that the people know what they're paying for. If we're going to have to pay for demolishing houses or fixing a house, I heard Kate say something about the Delanco History Board. That's a lot to pay for the History Board to have a place to meet
Right.
and keep their stuff. And not that I have a problem with them having that, but I just think you guys really need to get this plan together so that it makes more sense to more people before you ask us to go ahead and give our approval for a $3.5 million purchase. That's going to come up and bite us in the butt later on with more costs for demolition, for building, for unbuilding, for whatever. I just don't think you have your plan together yet, and I find that rather disturbing, I guess is a good word to use, because you're asking us for a lot of money. So I would really rather have a much better proposal, a much more complete proposal, if that makes any sense to any of you. Because this, as it stands, does not make a lot of sense to me. I saw all your issues, but none of it tells me what you're going to do about the issues, just that you're going to address them. And that could be turning around saying, hello, issue, now we're done, we addressed that one. I want to see, I think we should all see plans and something specific that is going to be and wants to be done so that we can all see where our tax dollars are going to pay for this.
So the issue is Criterion has their approvals for their truck repair facility. We need to swoop in and buy this now before another developer does.
I understand
So
that.
we can't take the time to do the
But you
planning
need to
process
give
that we
the
need to do.
taxpayers
I totally
some
understand that.
knowledge
I
about
totally get
what
it.
you're going to do with the property once you get it.
Understood. And trust me, we would love to share that with you. If we had that information, we have ideas, but we have to purchase the property before somebody
Well,
else
you can
does.
certainly strategize those ideas before you purchase the property.
And we have
So
to.
that the township knows where you're going and where our taxpayers' dollars are going. Okay? All right, I'm done, and I'm out.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Davidson.
Mary Ellen.
Drive
She
safe.
said mic drop.
Ma'am.
She said mic drop.
My name's Joan Senafani, 1 John Marr Way in Newton's Landing. I was just going to ask the question because it was mentioned by the lady who's a realtor that other people may be interested. So this 3.5 million that you have on the piece of paper, is that absolute? Or can somebody come in and bid higher? And if that's the case, is there a maximum that we don't know about at this point in time that we would be willing to pay for this property? I'm not against it or for it. I'm not sure where I stand with it. I don't want my taxes to go up, but nobody else does
Sure.
either, you know, so.
The agreed upon price is 3.5 million. Both parties have agreed to that.
Okay. And you're going to vote on it today, so you need to know, obviously, right away, whether you're going to, you know, go forward or not.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
All right, that's all I want.
Lori?
She's got her hand up.
Lori, and then I'm going to go to you, right there, third row.
Lori Pfister, 7 Edwards Avenue. Thank you for letting me have another moment.
Sure.
So not just to the Township Committee, but to pretty much everybody in town, there's been a lot of like boogeyman talking about industrial and the savior of 55 and older housing. And it is wonderful to have beautiful little houses. However, the people who live in Newton's Landing and in the 55 and older community do not share the same concerns as I do. I live right over here on Edwards Avenue. We are not selling to the same pool of people. At this point, the only people with kids who want to buy into Delanco who are people who cannot afford to care about schools or who just don't know enough to care about schools. Our school budget has been defeated for 20-odd years. At this point, we're in the bottom 5 of the county. Residential, industrial is not a terrible thing. Just keep your property values in mind. Township Committee, I urge you, it is not, whoever it is that you have in mind to buy this, whatever their plan is, to flip it into 55 and older housing. There's more people live here than just Newton's Landing. This is my property value. I'm not on a fixed income. I am dependent on selling my home for a profit. And at this point, it is laughable. So there are worse things than industrial building. And I think we can do better than residential. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Can we close this
As soon as we're done with people. Go ahead. The last ones.
I'm still Tim Kishler. I live at 12 Harris Court in Newton's Landing. I think it's kind of unusual that so many people are against a concept of a plan. I would think at least half of the people would be okay with that. Anyway, there's a lot of things that have been thrown out, and one has to do with the Gone with the Wind and waiting till tomorrow. Tomorrow is here, and we have to do something, and we have the opportunity to do something. The question is not maybe what to do, but what not to do, or what not to allow to have happen. And again, I really guess I didn't make myself clear regarding my ignorance of how taxes work. But in one of the previous meetings here, we had a woman whose life was saved, burning house over by Lou's Deli. And the police, whose salary is supported by my taxes, didn't say, oh, she lives over there, so we're not going to rescue her. You have to realize that it's for everyone. The taxes go to support. I don't know where the boundaries of Delanco are necessarily, but you don't pick and choose what things you're going to support based on where you live and how many children you have and what schools they go to. It's a pot of money that goes to benefit the community as a whole, or at least prevents things that are going to be to the detriment of the community as a whole. And having this proposed truck thing, you don't have to be really smart to see that that's not a good thing. We all breathe the same air, we all drink the same water, and it's going to be affected. I think that's it.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Unless there's anyone else who hasn't spoke yet? Hold on, Vera. 1 second. Is there anyone else that has not yet spoke that would still like to speak? All right. Seeing none, we'll wrap it up with Ms. Darmo. Just right up to the mic, please, Vera.
Like, this is a real issue of cost.
I'm sorry.
You know, so I have to say my name again?
Yep.
Vera
Because when
Darmo,
Bev does the minutes,
it's
she's not going to know who's talking.
Vera Darmo, 605 Hickory Street. It really is a serious issue. People can't afford their bills. I know that. So that's why it is going to be a tough vote. But like a lot of people, they say, New Jersey, I'm getting out of here, I'm moving out, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes there's no place to move to anymore. Like my husband moved here from another country. His country was all polluted. He came here. So eventually there's not going to be places to move to. Preserving this land as best we can is going to be like an oasis in New Jersey, okay? I'm not moving out of Delanco, okay? My daughter bought a house here. I'm going to have grandchildren here, and I'm here long term. So I would love for my property to go down so I could pay less taxes. I'm not selling, so that's all I want to.
You and me both. Thank you, Vera. All right.
Can we take a 5-minute break?
Given that,
Yeah,
I will
close it.
close this portion of the meeting to the public. And I heard a request for a 5-minute recess.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, yes.
We'll take a 5-minute recess. It is 8:50 on the clock. We'll be back at 8:55.
So we're going to have our
I'll
comments
call the
now?
meeting back to order.
We're going to do our comments? Okay.
All right, so we almost had the 5 minutes down. We were close. To those that are still here, thank you for staying. I would like to thank all of you for all the decorum this evening. I understand that this is an emotional issue for everybody. Some people don't want taxes high. Well, nobody wants taxes high. Some people are against taxes. Some people, one reason or the other. You all have your reasons, but thank you all who spoke and the rest in the room for just being in a professional manner this evening. It's completely noticed, completely appreciated, and we were all listening intently to what you have said this evening. I have 4 pages of notes. I wasn't just looking down at my phone texting someone. I was taking notes on everybody. So it's, thank you all. So let's.
You were watching Monday Night Football.
One could only wish. I would have it on the big screen.
Matt doesn't even know how to get to the channel for Monday Night Football.
You're right, I really don't. All right, I guess we'll go across the dais for comments before we go for a vote on this. I'll start to my far left. Let Mike go since his
Far left.
You're right.
My far right.
All right.
It's late, sorry. I'm in bed usually at 9:15.
All right, this would be the last meeting of an 18-year tour up here, so anyway. Try to put my comments in some coherent order.
Mike, could you just pull the microphone right up to the mouth?
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks.
Is it coming out?
I hear
Those
it.
that want to hear me. Through great efforts of Mr. Heinhold, I was able to get the Phase 1 study that was done on the 401 property and 450 and 500. So it was quite voluminous, some 800 pages plus and so forth. So I spent a long flight back from Phoenix, Arizona last week reading that in the dark of an airplane and a couple times over the weekend as well. Very illuminating. A lot of the information I already knew about. But there were some things that kind of, small red flags. In short, the Phase 1, It's really a document search. It was done by an outfit that does that for their business out in Akron, Ohio, so they can just access a lot of these things on the web. So it's unlikely anyone put actually boots on the ground over at 401 or 450 and so forth. But it was interesting, some of the things that kind of, the hairs on the back of your neck go up a little bit. They had sent an inquiry to the the civil engineer for Criterion Company, as you've heard mentioned up in New York, and he did not respond to their questionnaire. They also attempted contact with the previous longtime owner of the property at 401 and others in town to determine history and activity and what's going on there, and they were unable to contact that person who's still around. But there was a lot of historical information in this 800-page document. Noteworthy, trailers have been on that site since roughly 1984. There's been a machine shop and other businesses of similar metalworking, stamping, bending, welding, things like that, compressors, things like has been on that site since 1984. So yes, what's been approved for Criterion to sell to another, what the current approvals are, is a little more than what has been going on there in the past. Being up here for 18 years, I've had a little tinge of guilt because, as Mr. Heinhold said, this is kind of like the missing tooth along Creek Road there, and it's been kind of hiding in plain sight. But the thing that allowed it to hide in plain sight was a very benign business was operating back there for the last 30 years or so, and wasn't really bothering anybody. But as I said, those activities, trailer storage, and a machine shop of various sorts has been going on for the last several decades. I know there's been a lot of talk of environmental impact and so forth. And again, one of the things that, a couple things caught my eye in this report, and I'm always in and out of the DEP website. I've been involved in some land issues over the 18 years here, and so I kind of know my way around on some things, enough to be dangerous. But one of the pages, and this was just a copy, on the report, they have surrounding property database records. As I said, this was a company that does this for their business, and they were looking up surrounding businesses for 401 and 450. As I said, it encompasses all three lots. But they have 9 pages of surrounding properties with addresses in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So somebody clearly did not look at the final product. Another thing was as far as the state, DEP, EPA at the federal level has databases to record and document various levels of chemical spills, hazardous materials. Even if you've just got it on site and nothing bad has happened, that you have that there, it has to be documented and registered in various state and federal databases. This report, the 800 pages, 700 pages lists all the hazardous materials and spills and accidents and oil tanks and everything else around this area. So it's not just that site, it's all on Creek Road, Cooper Street, 700 pages of listings of everything from a truck was being unloaded and a 55-gallon drum of hydraulic fluid broke, split open or something like that, to we removed an oil tank at a residence across the street and this is what we did and cleaned up and that's all done. So there's a hell of a lot of activity that's here now and goes back several decades as well. So what's going to occur there isn't really much different than what's already in place right now. There was even one of the findings on page 500 was in 2013 there was runoff from the Dietz and Watson fire that was picked up over at 401 Creek Road. So stuff travels. A couple things, I've kind of gone through the history of this report and so forth. The cost that we've been talking around a lot tonight. Yeah, 3.5 mil. Yeah, that's tough to take. We've had other, the waterfront down at the Zerbrug, I think we paid, it was like $230,000, and we actually got a Green Acres reimbursement for that, if I remember correctly. We had litigation over the dunes, and that was about $250,000 in litigation to defend that from what DEP wanted to do with it. And this town is very tax sensitive, wherever you live. The whole community is tax sensitive. And, getting back to that parcel sitting as an industrial zone, the missing tooth, as I started out talking about for the 18 years sitting here, you're always in a yin-yang dilemma. If what do you do with it? If it's industrial and it's not hurting anything, you leave it at that because there's pressure from the taxpayers to increase ratables. If it goes residential, now you've got a potential impact on the school, and you're going to start busting their budget or busting their classrooms and so forth. So there's always a pushback or tension there. And I would love to have a bank account, which is your bank account, to buy land, and we try to save our dollars to have that opportunity to do that. And we've spent dollars to defend the dunes, and we've spent dollars to buy the Zerbrug waterfront there, and we've spent dollars in other ways to acquire things on Hawk Island and so forth. And people have asked about the Green Acres funding or county funding and so forth. So those questions are still to be answered. Just to clarify, the Green Acres funding, the deadline is February 5th. It's not that funding opportunity opens. As far as future uses, I'm concerned about the future risk to that property. Some of the discussions the committee has had in acquiring it is to turn the property over to a developer for residential or affordable housing or senior housing. There's also been discussions whether Public Works would be able to use that facility over there. Someone mentioned, we've got $500,000, $750,000 of equipment sitting out in the open. It'd be nice to get that into shelter, and that's one of the programs or one of the capital projects that we want to have is to build a pole barn and redo the fuel farm there that our neighboring communities use to gas up fire trucks, ambulances, and dump trucks. But the future, New Jersey over the last couple of years and going forward in the coming year has aggressively been changing regulations regarding development near waterfront, wetlands, and adjusting for climate change. And the thing that I see kind of coming together that presents a risk for the township in this property is the flood rules, the flood demarcation for the new base flood elevation is proposed to go up 5 feet next year. That would significantly reduce the available land that could be buildable, possibly buildable, at 401 Creek. So the return on getting our money back on buying this now may not be as much as we hope or expect or would get. So that's something that needs to be realized and considered. It's all guesswork as to what those rules will actually look like when they come down, how that will be applied, interpreted. But it's something that's very concerning that a significant part of 401's property is potentially inside that new envelope of higher flood restrictions. I think I've covered just about all the points that I brought up there. So circle back to the cost. The township is in an extremely good financial position now. That's taken a long time coming, and it's due to several events, the new warehouses, the new empty warehouses, the way the added assessments and so forth has come in. That has increased our, it's a bad term, surplus, but our revenue that the township has basically available. Mr. Alette, Ms. Fitzpatrick, we've been here long enough that we were here during lean times when things were kind of very tight. And I don't want to see that again. So the committee going forward in doing the budget for 2025, I hope that we look at that seriously and not put the township financially in a hole. We're at a financial position that we're unable to do some of the things that need to be done. So I think I've aired out everything I wanted to talk about. Thank you for the time, and I'm done.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Fern?
Walking the town this past week, delivering the flyers to let our residents know that we were looking to bond for $3.5 million in the purchase of this. It's very humbling. As I walked up to each building or each home, there are some homes that are really nice. There's some homes that could use some upgrades or, fixing up. And, the figure of average, I think, was $95 a year. Well, for some folks, that's a week of groceries. For some folks, if we pass this, it's going to affect their rents because the landlord passes that on to the tenants. So take those people into consider. Okay? We, or many folks are, we consider ourselves middle class, and we do the best that we can in paying our bills and taking a vacation, and maybe we'd like to get a new car, and we save, and we're able to do some of those things. Where folks, I've got neighbors behind me that they bought a used car, and fortunately, the man that lives there, has some smarts, and he was pulling brakes apart and trying to fix something inside the car, but his wife is sick and she can't work. So those things hit me. I'm going to ask those people to contribute, because we're going to tax them. Then I walked up to the one house, which I consider, it's not the Zerberg mansion, but a mansion on the river, and I said, how much is this guy? He's got a lot of money. He has this. Well, when I looked at the value of his property, his tax bill is going to go up close to $500 a year. So I look at it from taking money from people. And yes, seniors, if you're in the senior freeze, tax increase is not going to, my understanding, affect you because your taxes are frozen. So that portion, I think I had a figure of like 2,200 residential homes in Delanco. Well, if we have, and I have no idea how many of us seniors have a senior freeze. I don't. But so any tax increases that are passed on are not going to be impacted to their budget. Social Security, yeah, they give us a little bit more here, but they're taking more over here. So I really struggle with deep down inside of taking money to purchase this land from that money from those folks that are really in need. Yes, I would love to be able to preserve that land. If we could get a developer, ideally for me, if a developer could come into the mix and say, I can do condos or townhouses, and I can make money doing that and pull us out of the mix so we don't have to put all this upfront money. I know that's not the real world, I guess, but I think maybe out there in my imagination that developers over here, they got this property here and this one's got a property over here. Oh, I could do a project over here, and get them together. Let them, so what we as a governing body, we talk about zoning or changing the zoning, I don't know, it's possible. I hear it's possible we're going to take $3.5 million from the taxpayers. Why the heck can't we take the time and do an overlay? Hey, Mr. Developer, you got this approval for doing trucks over here. If we do an overlay for housing, is that something you can do? Can you make more money doing that versus, fixing up and putting in the trucking outfit over there? Now, those are things that went through my mind as I'm walking through town delivering. So I think that's about all I have to say at the moment, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Fern. Work my way back. Kate.
So many things have been brought up tonight. But to me, we aren't making any more land. And this is an asset for Delanco Township. And it is an asset that will benefit all the residents in this town. One way or another, everyone will benefit. And I realize it is a chunk of change, and but all the other purchases that we have made in this town, and we've made some purchases of that have been preserved for open space. And I don't want to limit open space, but I'd like a portion of it for open space. But I really think it's a win-win for Delanco, and that we have an opportunity. We are in a good financial position to do this, to put a decent amount down that will not affect the tax rate, and that we can turn this around to be a good use for Delanco Township. And I have listened to everyone. No one likes their bills increased. I appreciate that. And I've sat up here long enough to know that the different purchases that we've made, we could have bought these two lots right here where there's two empty warehouses, but the Township Committee wouldn't agree to the sale. So, I mean, they may not be here if we agreed. So, for me to have, for you to have a facility between a housing development and a park, a children's park, where even you may go at times, it just doesn't fit. It's like Doug said, it's, that
missing tooth.
That missing tooth. And why wasn't the zoning changed? I really don't know. But at one time, that park was zoned industry. We did not pick that park out for us. The county, that was a three-party agreement with Pulte, the county, and Delanco Township, where we swapped land that we owned on the Delaware, or on the Rancocas Creek, to the county for their trail, and they gave us that property for our Field of Dreams. So we didn't purchase that, and we didn't change the zoning. We were given that to put our park on. So it wasn't even a consideration that, oh my gosh, we better change the zoning over there. Never even entered my mind, to tell you the truth. But I think it is a good, I know it's a big purchase, but I can tell you that this Township Committee will protect it and will do whatever we can to give back to the community and to not have it be a burden, to have it become something that we'll all be proud of and be able to have a benefit from. And it could be cutting the tax that we may have to raise initially. I just think it's a win-win. You're not going to get another asset like this in town, and I think that's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Carolyn?
Hold on, making one note. Okay. I wrote down some remarks so that I could gather my thoughts. Make sense. There's been many times in the past when the Township Committee has taken action in order to protect the quality of life in Delanco. For example, the dunes. The committee voted to fight New Jersey DEP in court, as other members have mentioned, to protect the dunes that's now West Avenue Nature Trails from becoming an active disposal facility for dredge spoils behind a residential neighborhood, which would have caused significant dump traffic up West Avenue and potentially all the way down to Burlington Avenue and Cooper Street, not to mention all the trees that would have been cut down and we wouldn't have that beautiful nature park back there. Second, we have Zerberg Mansion. Obviously, you all know the Township Committee stepped in and bought that mansion years ago to prevent the state from turning it into a home for kids with behavioral issues in the middle of a residential neighborhood, including along Delaware Avenue, 2nd Street, Union, Willow, as we all know. The township sold that property soon after, and it's now a beautiful home for seniors with affordable rents. There's also additional ratables, as we know, built on the grounds that are surrounding the mansions, the townhomes. Hawk Island, which we recently opened for public access again, which we're extremely proud of. Township Committee, we took action to acquire parcels of land on Hawk Island for preservation. I couldn't imagine what would have been done if those parcels were allowed to be developed and if they were managed to get their hands on them. It would not have guaranteed that these parcels were preserved for the residents of Delanco. We are excited that you're able to access them. There's now the proposal for the truck facility along Creek Road between the residential neighborhood and the rec facility, which is predominantly used by Delanco's youth. The facility, once in operation, will most likely cause additional truck traffic, as I mentioned, down Creek Road, exacerbating an already well-known issues for motorists, and obviously with the warehouses, it's going to continue to be an issue. It's important for the Township Committee to continue its work in helping preserve the quality of life for all residents. We are one town, regardless if you live near there or not. Like one of the gentlemen spoke here earlier, we have one pool of money we all have to contribute to it. We can't pick and choose, what we do with that money. In the proposal for the truck facility, they are removing 788 trees from that 11 acres. There's only a 15-foot buffer that's going to be around that entire truck facility. 15 feet, that's between here and Mrs. Lore. It's only 50, maybe even Mike. That's not a big buffer. Yeah, they may be replanting 700 trees, but you're talking a bush, a tree that could be this big. It'll take generations before those trees are mature. Again, those trees are very old, obviously. The township needs to purchase that property to control what happens there. Whether we put age-restricted homes, whether we choose to preserve the land, put a park there, at least we have control. Now that we know there's other developers and other interests, it's more important now more than ever to purchase that property. Who knows what was going to go there if the truck facility doesn't go there? We need to have control to make sure it's the best use for this town for the long run. We have to think long term. Yes, nobody wants a tax increase, of course not. But we're talking an average of $90 to $100 a year. Does it suck? Yes. Is it affordable to most people? I would hope so. It's like $10 a month. Honestly, it's not a huge amount. And I think it's worth it to preserve the quality of this town. We don't want more trucks here. New Jersey is supposed to be the garden state, and honestly, it's the concrete truck state, warehouse state anymore. It's awful. I don't even like traveling to North Jersey. It gives me anxiety because there's literally no land up there. We're going to do what we can to make sure that this use is its best use and that the tax increase is minimal. We are in the best financial situation we have ever been in. We have a very healthy surplus. It is my prerogative and other members on the committee to take at least $1 million out of that surplus to put down towards the purchase of this property to help alleviate the tax burden. Therefore, we'd only be financing about $2.5 million. And I know there's been misinformation out there that this tax increase will be for 30 years, that it's a permanent tax increase, and that is incorrect, absolutely incorrect. Our financing would be for a bond that is short-term now. We have up to 9 years to continue to do that short-term financing at these interest rates, and then when the time is right and interest rates are right within those 9 years, we can convert to permanent financing if we get to that point. But we are going to take the time to do the planning that we need to do. This committee is committed to that, to make sure that we get the best use for this town, to get a great rateable in there, because what's there is not, honestly. $23,000 a year for 11 acres is a joke. So we need the taxpayers to have faith in us, that we know what we're doing, and we really want to protect this town and do what's best for it long term. That's it.
Thank you, Carolyn. I guess the benefit of going last, everyone has had great ideas. I'm not going to rehash what everyone has said up here so far. everybody, everyone has valid points. And just like everybody in the audience has had valid points this evening, it's your wallet, it's your town. Just on the tax impact itself, if we did bond, which there's no intent to, but if we did bond for the full $3.5 million, I punched my numbers up here. My estimated tax is $168 a year. That's $3 a week. The average person is $90 a year. I'm not going to divide. You'd help me with the math on that. 90 divided by 52, what was it? $1.50 a week, whatever. Less than a cup of coffee. That's what we're talking about here. And that's assuming we bond for the full amount. And I fully understand that there's people out there where every dollar counts. We're all in financial situations these days where everything is more expensive. I was grocery shopping last week. I saw on ShopRite a box of Fruity Pebbles, and I know I shouldn't buy them, but my son likes them. $5.99 for the small box. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Everything is more expensive. There was a report today that the prices on eggs are going up. I spent for an 18-pack of eggs a couple weeks ago for Thanksgiving. God, it was almost $9. It's absurd, and I almost want to get a hen license to have my own chickens now. But everything goes up. But as some members have said, we need to think forward into the future here. We got to think of the town in the long term, and it's not about one side of the town or serving for a select few. When the property was purchased for the mansion a decade or whatever it was ago, the Zerberg Mansion, it wasn't purchased just to prevent or to save the neighborhood for the residents on Delaware and Second, Willow, and Union. It was for the whole town. The whole town benefits. So that's really all my comments. I'm not going to try to pontificate more than I have already, because
that's a big word.
It is a big word. Everyone has, everyone has also chimed in tonight. So with that, I will ask.
Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor?
You may.
Actually, yes, Doug, a question. We received 2 email letters of correspondence. Do they have to be entered onto the record regarding this issue?
No, the law requires or proposes a public hearing period. We do not accept written submissions as a part of the formal record on a public comment period. We can note them as general correspondence to the governing body.
Okay.
But they are not considered part of the public comment period.
Thank you. Then I will enter them as correspondence later. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. All right. With that, I will ask for a motion on ordinance 2024-26 on second reading.
So moved.
Well, the motion was to approve it, correct? I'm asking for a motion.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Motion to approve ordinance 2024-26.
Second.
I think
Mike seconded already.
Oh, I didn't hear
That's
it.
fine.
I didn't hear it. I couldn't hear you, Mike. You have to speak in the mic.
All right. Motion by Ms. Seuss, second by Mr. Templeton to adopt 2024-26 on second reading. Roll call, please, Janice.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
I'm a no, and it's for the folks that can't afford the extra tax or are struggling out there to pay their bills. We've got the school bond tax that's going to hit them, and we have our normal operating expenses for the town that are going to go up, and this added cost, in my opinion, is going to have an impact on folks. So my vote is no.
Ms. Seuss?
My vote is yes.
Mr. Templeton?
This would be at the last meeting of my 18 years here, right? Yeah, I've said pretty much my piece on this. But I hope that some of my comments, the 2025 committee will take into consideration, especially the due diligence and deep investigation of what's there. And hopefully that the property can be turned and not lose the potential reimbursement. It's not the right term, but I think what Mr. Heinhold's comments were when I had stepped out of the room and was later relayed to me that it gives us a choice. And I did receive a response from one of the county commissioners that they were going to look into it. Wherever that goes, hopefully, again, that they would, after the township acquires it, maybe we could subdivide off the wetlands area and at least acquire a buffer zone, a permanent buffer zone. So I'm going to vote yes.
And Mr. Bartlett?
For the reasons aforementioned, I will vote yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right. Not to outdo ourselves, we will go to ordinance 2024-27. We're at the bottom of the first page now at 9:35. So this is an ordinance adopting First Amendment to the, quote, Industrial Rehabilitation Areas Redevelopment Plan, quote, specific to Block 2000, Lot 13.04, 500 Creek Road, second reading by title only and public hearing. And I will open the hearing to the public on ordinance 2024-27. Same rules apply. Please approach the podium, name and address for the record if you choose to speak.
And Mayor?
Yes.
For the record, you have correspondence from the Joint Land Use Board Secretary, Beverly, that the board did, as required by the municipal land use law, did find that this ordinance is consistent with the master plan.
Thank you, Janice. Just come up to the mic there.
Okay, this is not on what you just asked, but I know for the Board of Ed meetings, we have time to ask questions about things that aren't on the agenda. Is that at the very end? Or?
Nope, that'll be after this public hearing and the next one, so roughly 5-10 minutes.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay.
Close.
Anyone on this one? Going once, twice? All right, I will close this one to the public and ask for a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-27 on second reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Seuss, second by Mr. Olet. Roll call, please, Janice.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Ms. Seuss?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton?
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. All right.
I want to tell people we can
A
leave.
second here, I gotta move the binder clip. All right, ordinance 2024-28, an ordinance by the Township Committee amending the Delanco Township Code of Ordinances to add Chapter 248 Stormwater Management, a new article, Roman numeral 8, to regulate storage of de-icing materials on private property and providing for severability and an effective date. Second reading by title only and public hearing. I'll open the hearing to the public for ordinance 2024-28.
And this was the ordinance required by the state.
Yeah.
Yep.
Salt storage.
Salt storage. You have a question about salt storage?
Ray Weber, 22 ships. You say that this year is the second reading by title only. When was the first reading?
The last meeting?
No, it was the meeting before.
Meeting before?
Yeah, it was in November.
Because I went back all the way back to September, and there wasn't anything in there for this particular ordinance.
Yeah, Janice showed have the exact date.
Well, actually,
I don't remember
at
talking about this.
Township Committee at the bottom is the notice where it was
Maybe I missed
reduced.
it. I didn't see it.
Find that in the packet.
I'm looking here, Ray.
It's in there, it's in our thing.
It was not on the agenda that night, but it was introduced that night after discussion.
Yeah, we
If you only
discussed
looked at
it
the agenda
first.
wasn't there, but it was adopted, introduced that night after discussion.
Okay, thank you.
I thought I was remembering things.
Ray's
For
just trying
misremembering things,
to,
thank
Ray's just
you,
trying
Ray.
to keep us in line, huh? Yeah, okay.
That's why we
Auditor.
love him here.
He's the meeting auditor.
All right. All right. Anyone have any questions or comments on this one? All right. Seeing none, I'll close this hearing to the public and ask for a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-28 on second reading.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Fitzpatrick, second by Ms. Seuss to adopt 2024-28. Roll call, please, Janice.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Ms. Seuss?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton?
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. All right, meeting is now open to the public for any comments or questions. This is session number 1. If you have any comments or questions, please come up, approach the podium, and give your name and address for the record, even though we know it already, Vera.
Okay, Vera Darmo, 605 Hickory Street. This question is regarding the general election that happened in November.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading, I think in the Pine Barrens Tribune, I think it was, that the Public Information Office of the county said that when they were deciding how many voting machines to deploy to a site, that they took into account the vendor's recommendation,
Right.
the whatever that machine company is, I forget their name, Dominion.
Yes.
And they also said that they also consulted municipal clerks. But Hainesport, their committee person was at the meeting, I think that was November 27th, with the county commissioners, and she said her county clerk may have gotten something vague, or I wasn't so sure, so I wanted to ask Delanco, was Janice Lawyer the municipal clerk?
I am.
Were
She
you
is.
ever contacted by the county about how many machines to deploy, or did they send you a request, and did you tell them how many machines that were needed at each site?
Ma'am?
Please, proceed.
There was a email that had at the very bottom of the email, oh, and let us know what you think you're going to need for the general election. Very vague. So
Yes.
that town was correct. It was a very vague email. I sent an email back requesting more machines, and actually even said what was supplied for the primary, which was the rollout of the new machines, was going to be woefully inadequate for the general election. We were assigned the exact same amount of machines for the general election that we were for the primary.
And you
Bless you.
specifically requested more.
I requested more, particularly for the Pearson School.
Can you tell me who was the person who sent you the request, or what office?
I'd have to look back at the email. I can get that for you, Vera.
Yes, if you could give that to me, because supposedly, when I attended the county commissioners meeting, they said that they were going to conduct their own investigation, and the results would be done by sometime in January. But several people who, they were talking about handicapped people, elderly people, so many people with job responsibilities, childcare responsibilities, could not vote. They had to leave. It was a very important issue, and a lot of people stood up and said, we need an outside entity, I don't know who that would be, but to investigate, and none of the commissioners said that they would do that. They said it's going to be internal. So, yes, if you could somehow get me that information, or...
And it was just the one email that I had sent saying that we were, particularly for the Pearson School, we were going to need more than what was supplied for the primary.
Okay.
And that was basically it. I will say that given these new machines, even if they had supplied double the amount of, machines, I call them validators, the marking, you still would have had very long lines. But we did see that as a municipal clerk and our Municipal Clerks Association, we did see where it said the municipal clerks were consulted.
Did your association make any statement, formal statement?
Not officially that I'm aware of.
Could you ask them to?
Well, we have a president and we have a process, so.
Because that's important for the voters. This is no light issue, that people might have been denied the ability to vote. That's very serious, and I hope we all focus on that. And when this I said at the meeting November 27th, that we as citizens, we can sort of do our own investigation, and that's why I'm asking about it, because I'm not going to just take the words of people who are investigating their own mistakes. So those were that's my comment. Thank you for that, and somehow if you can contact me with that letter and your reply to it.
Yeah, if you could just, I can email it, if you can just give me your email address, if you want to.
Okay.
You could do it after the meeting if you want.
Yeah, after the meeting, or just email me on.
Yes, I'll email you, that's better.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
thank
email
you.
me and then I can get you that information.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Darmo. And I completely, 100,000,000% agree with everything Vera just said. It was incredibly disappointing to see those lines at the election. It's encouraging that all these people came out to vote, but it was incredibly disappointing, the cluster F of what it was.
Pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guy, Singh or Singe, I forget.
Singh.
He said, oh, I'll take responsibility. It was just me, like, saying, oh, no one wants to take responsibility, I'll do it. Okay, then pay a price, you know?
Yep.
Well, and then they blamed record turnout.
Yeah, and to Vera's point, they need an independent body investigating exactly what happened there. You don't investigate yourselves. Nope, it looks good to me.
Can the Mayor's Association or whatever associations you belong to put pressure on the county? Because I'm like one person, we got some reporters, like, they're not gonna listen to us.
And it was only Burlington County that had these
Yeah,
issues.
everyone else in the state was fine.
Yeah.
So go
And
figure.
they blamed record voter turnout, but as you put that spreadsheet together, turnout was actually down across the board by double digits in every single county.
I did a complete analysis on that, 100% correct, Carolyn. When I saw the statement they released the next day where they threw the clerks under the bus for saying, yeah, the clerk said it was fine. I called BS because I talked to Janice, and the same thing about the email. No, it's liar, liar, pants on fire to the county. So that's really what it is. Come on up, sir.
Brian Green, 14 Charles Circle, and Newton's Landing. I'm just wondering, it's well known throughout the state that Burlington County screwed it up worse than any other county in the state in terms of how the election was managed. Mm-hmm. Did all of our local problems basically a result of what Burlington County was undergoing? There's not enough machines, not enough manpower, not enough of anything. So basically it just was handed down to us.
Us and all the other towns. We were far from the only one.
I made a good move this year. I voted early.
Same here.
Yeah.
And I was, when I was telling my wife a week before the election, I said, look, we can go over to Willingboro, over at the library, and a couple days before it was a mess, but it was Sunday afternoon. I said, let's give it a look. Maybe it'll be the sweet spot. And it was. There was no line. Yeah. And I was by there yet, the day before that, and there were 200 people in there.
Yes.
So I was fortunate at least. But I hope that we can manage to not have another screw up countywide the way it was here. So I didn't see the lines. Thankfully, I wasn't in line. But it was the first time I ever voted early.
Yeah.
Same here. I went to Willingboro to the library it was the Wednesday or Thursday before the election, and I went there about 45 minutes before closing. I only spent a half hour there.
3 hours. I was in line 3 hours.
Ouch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I submitted my vote by mail application the next day. I'll never stand in line ever again.
No.
Certainly, nobody wants to go through that stuff.
And we're at a point with technology now.
Yeah.
God, we do everything online. We should be able to log into some secure site online that's unhackable, if you could believe that. that you could just cast your vote right from your home, your phone, your tablet,
Yeah.
instead of standing for
Yeah,
hours
it would
on
make
end.
sense. We can do everything else.
Yeah,
You
you
got
can
that
renew
right.
your passport online now. You should
Yeah.
be able to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and I went through all the aggravation of dealing with the Yellow Star driver license.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
2 appointments, and they blew up the first one.
Yeah.
We're all preaching to the same choir
Yeah.
here. We all know the complete screw up by the county.
But, but I'm sure that we can get some resolution from the county. I'm not sure why it was such a train wreck over there. Was it their lack of preparation? Was it lack of money? What happened? Does anyone know?
No,
Love to
that's
know.
why they're investigating. There's no answers right now. There just wasn't enough machines, poor planning, and the county runs that. The township is literally just a vehicle that hosts the voters, and the county does everything, so.
Well, there were counties nearby that are run by political machines, it shall remain nameless, and they appear to have handled this a
Yes.
whole lot better than Burlington County.
Yep.
So I don't think they've got much of an excuse. All right,
Thank you.
Fail to plan to fail.
And I will just add, we have to wait until every polling place reports at the end of the night. And I thought we were bad Bev and I getting out of here at midnight. There were clerks that were still there at 2 and 3 in the morning waiting for their polling places to report back to the municipal
bad.
buildings.
That's bad,
It
unacceptable.
it wasn't just a Delanco thing, it was pretty spread out throughout the county.
And there was a late court filing by the AG to
Yeah. Oh,
extend the closing for an hour. However,
After the polls had closed.
the decision came after the polls closed, but nobody knew about it because it was after the polls closed.
We already had one district back already.
Right.
And, well, it was this
Here.
district, yes. And then the AG's determination came down, and it was like, the machine's down, it's already tallied out, So it was a very interesting evening, and I do hope, and as every municipal clerk hopes, that it will not repeat.
Amen. Peter.
Peter Fritz, 303 Union Avenue, and I just felt compelled to say briefly that I signed up to get my ballot early several years ago, and I automatically get it for each election, and it arrives at the house, and I vote a month ahead of time, and I either put it in the mail or a secure drop box. It takes me that long to do it, and I don't know why everybody doesn't do it that way.
Maybe that's what they're trying to force us to do.
I was horrified for the stories that I heard. Even my wife went to vote at the school, and she was in line for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I hope it's fixable. Thank you.
You and me both, sir. Ray.
Ray Weber, 22 ships, retention basins. When are they going to cut them? Has the contract been sent out?
I thought they cut
That
it.
are
I thought they cut
behind.
them.
They
I thought they cut it already.
I thought John said they were cutting them at the
They
last
didn't cut
meeting.
them.
That's what John had said.
Come close.
Well, we have to check with John then, because he had arranged it, and I thought it was already done.
Likewise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll follow up with them. We'll send you an email.
Yeah, John was supposed to be here tonight. He was home ill, but we will certainly,
You guys can get in touch with me.
Yep.
Let me know.
Yeah.
we know how to get you.
I know.
Smoke signal.
We got your number, Ray.
We'll let John.
Yeah.
You going, Tom?
Tom? No, you're not.
It's
Thank
your
you for
turn,
gracing
Tom.
us with your presence.
Tom Lord, 312 Center Avenue. God bless you, Beverly, from a while ago, sorry. Didn't bless you. I just wanted to say thank you to Mike Templeton for his service for the 18 years when you were on the Township Committee. And so was Kate at the same time. You know, we did a pretty good job of doing what we had to do, what you guys just had to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do as a Township Committee. So, Mike, thank you for your service for all those years. I just want to say that. Thank you guys for your services, representing everybody that you possibly can. So, and we see what happens next election for the election stuff. God knows. We were out of town. We were out of country.
That's the way to do it.
That was a good place
That's
to
a good
be.
place
Yeah,
to
we
be.
put it a week earlier.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Tom.
Tom.
Chuck?
Charles Gross, 35 Walton Way. So I see that tonight was very difficult, but I want to talk a little about civic pride. First of all, again, Mike, thank you very much for your service and leadership. The Field of Dreams lighting component, I think, is outstanding. I'm not exactly sure what the scope was and whether we met it, but what is out there is just absolutely fantastic. From a night sky initiative, I think it lights the field beautifully. You drive by, it's something to look at. I did drive by the other night. It was pouring rain. There was nobody playing or using the fields, but the lights were still on, so I'm not sure how that is regulated, if there's a time clock or if it's only on when it's scheduled, but huge improvement. I'm grateful for that. I think you guys did a great job on that. Also, the park at the river seems to be coming along great. Very much looking forward to that. I'm a relatively new neighbor in town. I found that the river walk at dusk is a beautiful place to be, and I'm looking forward to spending some time there and experiencing that new park. And that's pretty much about it. So I just want to wish you all a happy holiday and a happy New Year.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chuck. We'll try to figure out why those lights were on.
I don't know who's
That's
controlling
very
it.
odd.
That's really crazy.
We'll talk to the chairs of rec in the back there.
And then they cancel the game.
That was probably my fault. I pre-program it and probably forgot to turn them off that day. Sorry.
You threw yourself under the bus.
I've
All
kind
good.
of been a little busy.
All right. Does anyone else have any public comments? All right, I will close this session to the public, and if you really didn't have enough, there'll be another session later on in the meeting, hopefully, which isn't too late. Well past my bedtime. All right, we'll go to comments and reports. Professionals, the only professional here, no offense, is Doug.
I'll be relatively brief, just a couple
Thank
quick
you.
points. I just want to echo the mayor's comments about the civility in the room tonight. I do a lot of representation. I'm out at meetings like this 3 nights a week on average. And you have a lot to be proud of. I'm proud of Delanco tonight for the civility in the room and the difficult issues that this town unfortunately has to seem to face over and over again. With affordable housing issues, with the dunes, with the mansion. No town keeps me staring at my ceiling at night more than Delanco, but I love this town, and I think, again, I speak at the League of Municipalities on civility. It's declining. It was not on decline tonight in this room, and you have a lot to be proud of for that, so thank you to the residents. I also think it's an example of what the governing body sets. These people all care deeply about the town and put a lot of thought and effort and review into the issues before them. Mike, I did some math, not my strong suit, but I did some math. I've been doing this for 27 years. 2/3 of that has been with you. And talk about, some of the issues we had to face in being in the trenches together. Mike and I really spent a ton of time together working on the Dunes litigation. And good, bad, or indifferent, there's no dredge spoils out there. So,
Right.
That has a lot to do with what Mike did in terms of putting in time and effort during that time frame. And so, Mike, thank you for all your years of service. It's been a pleasure working with you. The last thing I want to say is just about some of the ongoing business. We talked a little bit about affordable housing. If you read about affordable housing across the state of New Jersey, a lot of towns are pulling their hair out. This governing body has done an excellent job of affirmatively planning for affordable housing. Some may say a hard lesson earned because the first round of affordable housing resulted in dense development of River's Edge. And so the town has taken the bull by the horns and been very upfront and forward-looking in terms of their affordable housing planning. We stand in very good shape relative to that issue as we go into this next round of affordable housing. The subcommittee, which Kate, Carolyn, and I, and Janice are basically the subcommittee for affordable housing, will be meeting with Mary Beth Lonigan, our affordable housing planner, this coming Wednesday, and start the process as we go into the new year to address our obligations. But the township, by all parameters, is in a very good situation for this 10-year round of affordable housing based upon what planning has already taken place over the years and what development has taken place. So we'll keep reporting on that as it develops.
Doug, Delanco loves you back.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank
no,
you for your,
I appreciate
how many years of service?
He's been on as long as I have.
Yeah.
Longer.
Wow, that's
Yep,
a long
We
time.
started together.
We'll get you an award one year as well, Doug.
That's all right. Just keep bringing me back and I'll keep me happy.
Thank you, Doug. All right, Township Administrator, Mr. Schwab.
Just a reminder, we are starting to work detail on our 25 budget. All the departments and offices and organizations have submitted their things, so I'll be working with the new CFO, putting that together for you for January meetings. I just want to note that in the consent agenda, you have things that relate to that. We have budget transfers from 24, which means that what you adopt doesn't necessarily end up being what we actually do, so we make those changes after November, so we make sure that we are in good shape. We also have two areas where we're going to be entering a cooperative pricing agreement and a shared service agreement with the county, in both cases in order to get the best prices for the items that we need and do it without a lot of special cost and effort. And you also have a change to the personnel policy that deals with mandating direct deposit in order to save some money. And the other thing that's on there is renewal of our contract with Delran Emergency Management Services for the next 2 years to continue with the ambulance service. So we've been working on that, and I'm not sure, Carolyn, if you want to talk about the contracts professional services, or you want me to handle that?
Sure, I can do that. So in your packet, you have two contract proposals from Taylor Design and from ERI for the park plan at Waterfront Park, aka Zerberg. And we made sure that they were official and sent us what they're doing and how much it's going to cost. We met with Scott and Harry and went over this in detail, exactly who was going to handle what aspect of the park, came up with a timeline that Mr. Schwab put together for me. I read that at the last meeting. So we are on track meeting that deadline, and this is their proposals. You anticipate about 20% of the total park cost in professional services, and we're pretty much at that. And just to make a quick note, this is the maximum that they're going to charge. And this is like worst case scenario kind of thing. So we're hoping, that the total will come in less, and they will be monitored, and invoices, will be submitted throughout the project to make sure we are on budget. So we again have a deadline, an opening for July. So right now that's what we have going on here in detail. So we were happy to get them and make sure everybody's on the same page and we don't get some crazy bills after services are done. So if you guys would like to approve that, that's
So
on the consent.
In the consent agenda, just in case anyone had any questions.
Yeah.
If you
Any
want to pull it out, we
questions?
can discuss it further
We
later.
can talk about it. But I kind of
part of
went
stuff
over
I
it in
do.
detail with Mr. Schwab. The only thing that we were going to speak to Scott about was that first portion of number 1 about like park design, because we feel like that's already been done and I can't find it right now. But we're going to get clarification on that. So there might be about 5,000 to 6,000 actually coming off of that. But again, it's worst case scenario, maximum amounts, so we have an idea. So seem to be right on track with what we thought. Questions? Great.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Carolyn, the history board had a sign that they were concerned about its placement. Is that already in?
In Waterfront Park?
Yes.
Yes, there's 2 signs that are going to be there that we just put in the budget to pay for, and we will work with the history board about design.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Richard and Carolyn. Department heads. Lieutenant.
Lieutenant Basil Warren, Delanco Township Police. For the month of December to date, we have 15 police cases. They were 565 calls for service with a total for the year of 10,957. There were 42 motor vehicle stops this month with a total for the year of 1,390. And there were 11 summonses issued this month with a total for the year of 642. Sure everyone obviously has seen the news, in reference to the drone issue.
No,
What
what
are you
drone
talking
issue?
about?
We have no idea what you're talking about.
So there was a meeting held last Thursday in regards to the best way for reporting. A 1-800 number was actually given, and we placed it on our website because residents were calling all over the state, were calling into Central Dispatch, but they have no means to give and provide information. So we're just tying up the lines. So with this 1-800 number, you're calling directly to the FBI, and you report it to them, and then they'll disseminate information to local PD as necessary. For us and our officers, when they take a call, they have a separate process, and that's just for law enforcement. But they're encouraging the residents to call that 1-800 number. One of the things that's kind of troubling for me, we're being told that there's no cause for alarm, but you don't know what it is. So how can you tell me I can't be alarmed if I don't know what it is?
Right.
So we just tell people to be diligent. If you see them, report them, and we'll kind of go from there, because that's pretty much where we are right now. We also, on a lighter note, we received our off-road terrain vehicle. It's at the John Deere facility now. We're waiting for some other parts for fabrication, so we should have that soon and be able to have it operational.
Awesome.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Oh, can I do public
Just
works?
Lieutenant,
Yes.
do we need to get a trailer for that?
We did.
Oh,
We did, yeah.
Yeah, on that, the drone topic, we got an email last, say Monday at 6:52 PM from the governor's office asking to RSVP by noon the next day to attend a meeting up at the Rock in Trenton to discuss with the mayors the drone issue. I have work, and I said, all right, my deputy mayor will go. They flat out refused it. They said, nope, mayor's only, too bad, so sad. We called the senator's office to see if they could push that matter along, because that's literally the purpose of the deputy, to go somewhere when the mayor can't. They told the senator's office, nope. Imagine that.
Which is good I didn't waste my time, because it literally was a waste of
Yeah,
time.
it
but
sounded like the
it's
end
still
result
the
is they
point.
knew nothing.
Yeah,
No.
they're not telling you
And-
anything, so.
It's, if I can reiterate something too, I was in contact with a company looking at purchasing a drone for our department based out of Marlton. And I received correspondence from them last Friday in regards to the same thing. They were able to deploy different means to try to get an eye on what's going on. And from them, they believe that there isn't any issues because they're unmanned and they're not operating in restricted space. So that's why nothing's really being done. Because our question was, like, why hasn't the state police or the FBI or any other entity in our government space done something to at least get an understanding or idea of what we're dealing with? And we were told, well, they are, but
I have my own theories, but.
Yeah, we won't get into that.
So, but
No theories
all
here.
day.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Oh, can I do public works?
If you really want to fill in for John tonight.
We collected 14 tons of leaves. We turned the compost 4 times.
That sounds about right.
No, I just wanted to report that we do have a trailer for the UTV. The Public Works put the stone bed down, and it was supposed to be delivered tomorrow. It's a 20-foot trailer that was used. We got for about $2,200. But due to the rain, he wants to wait till next week, so Kenny rescheduled delivery to next week, so it will be delivered then. And we're going to see how it works out. If it's good quality, we're going to go ahead and purchase more to replace the one that's West Avenue, and then get another one right next to it, so we can store more stuff down there.
Yeah.
But it was cheaper to buy a used one. They wanted like $5,000 for a new one, so we were fiscally responsible and bought one for $2,200.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Very good. And I believe this or next week is the last week of leaf pickup.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Last
I
call.
saw a message that came out that said that. All right. Clerk's office, Janice.
Yes, a couple items. First one is a reorganization meeting of the Delanco Township Committee will take place on January 2nd 2025, here at the municipal building at 6 o'clock PM. So that's reorganization. I'm going to ask the Township Committee to please provide a motion and to approve the payment of bills. You have a bill list for tonight's, and it's on your agenda, but to approve any bills that may become due and payable between this meeting and the end of the year, actually to our next business meeting, which is Monday, January 6th. So that way, if there's anything that cannot wait till the January 6th meeting, that the Finance Department is authorized to make that payment.
So you need a motion?
A motion would be great, thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Carolyn, second by Kate.
All in favor, fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
And that's all I have, unless Bev has something.
Bev wants to go to bed, it looks like.
No. Well, I'll leave Santa to your report.
Oh, okay. Township Committee, I'll start with my, let's see, far left this time. We're going to the left, Ms. Fitzpatrick. Do you have anything?
Thank you. I don't have 2 pages or 2.5 pages tonight, so I'm sure everybody's relieved, but Del Riv Dice's meeting was canceled, but I know basketball is scheduled to start in January. Recreation, I did attend that meeting regarding the storage container, and I'm so glad we got it, and it's going to be delivered. I missed their December meeting. However, I would really like to give a shout out to the members of Recreation who assisted in decorating Gateway Park. I mean, it really does take a village, but a special note should be made for Carolyn and Al, who went over and above what the park looked like. Our holiday visit, or village, and Santa visit looked like something right out of the North Pole, I'm telling you. They did an excellent job, and they should definitely be noticed for that. I enjoyed the carriage ride on December 14th, and after that, I did actually work. After Jen left, I took over her position until the end of the night, and I was tired. It was a long night, but it was fun. It was good to see everybody. And the 15th was just a special with Santa and Mrs. Claus were at both of our activities, and he did help us light the tree with the mayor, the deputy mayor, and myself. So that was a lot of fun. The vendors had some great items, and I was able to purchase a few gifts for Christmas. And a big thank you to Lou's Deli, because that's what I had for dinner that night. And
dessert.
And dessert, yes.
Breakfast.
Yeah, his daughter is an excellent baker. And at 401 Creek Road, I did work on drafting part of that fact sheet, and I'm glad that went through tonight. And the seniors, the Delanco seniors had their holiday luncheon at Fratelli's in Burlington on December 10th. It was a festive celebration, sharing good food with good friends and neighbors. Their next meeting is January 14th at the Firehouse. The Sewer Authority met on December 10th. The trunk line project, the final payment to Vortex was authorized. They're now on a 2-year maintenance bond. The pump station is still a work in progress. The main control panel is in, and they're still working on the bypass system. 989 Coopertown Road, it was reported that they may have a new tenant, so our engineer is checking into the status, and he'll advise. Stylex, there's going to be a site visit there in March. Discussions are still underway regarding raising the tanks at the plant due to flooding, although we haven't had any flooding for a while because we have had a lack of rain, but we'll see what happens now. The operator's report is on file, and our budget was adopted, and a change order for modifications and repairs to the concrete blocks surrounding the wet well. We replaced 2 discharge pumps, and also the thermostat was replaced to ensure proper operations. And Mayor, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Mr. Templeton.
Thank you.
Last report.
What's that?
Last report, make it good.
Last report, no. Environmental Board met back on December 4th, most of our discussion was about the municipal land use law was amended a couple years ago, and it requires municipalities to compile a climate change related hazard vulnerability assessment. And so we had a big discussion about that because Sustainable Jersey came out with a program to provide technical assistance. And I did an online webinar for that, and we listened to what they had to say. And I said, well, one of my questions at the end was, what's the technical assistance you're going to provide? And they said, we don't know yet. So I followed that up with an email. The deadline was, I think, last Friday. And had some back and forth correspondence with Michelle Taylor, who's the planning board planner. And she said, well, that's not really required until we do the next master plan or the next reexamination report. So that can has been kicked down the road a little bit. But the environmental board's going to, some components of that climate change report that's state mandated. There's some public outreach, public information, public education things that are components of that. And so we're going to work in that direction. So this is my last hurrah, I guess, yeah. And it's been a pleasure to represent Delanco at various meetings and places and meeting people and say I'm a township committee member from Delanco Township, or for the couple of years I was the mayor. And a great privilege. Democracy and being up here, it's a participation activity, and it's incumbent on residents and the citizenry. It takes, you have to participate, and even if it's at home on a website or the newspaper or whatever. It's to participate in a democracy, you have to, there's an effort that has to be put forth to educate yourself and stay up on what's in the community and how things are going. Because the public, you're really the rudder of where this ship goes. And I've had the privilege of working with a lot of great people up here over the 18 years. We come from all different backgrounds and experiences and everything, but we still depend on some suggestions and answers and hints from the public. And I've been fortunate in my time up here and 6 elections to have great support across the community, and most of all at home from my wife, Marie. So I was not going to do that. I was hold it together. But too many. It's not easy, as we heard over the last couple hours and stuff.
Nah, it's
through
easy.
18 years.
It's easy.
Never a dull moment around here.
No.
But I do want to close my comments with, we hear things in the news or from things, unfortunately, from various people of the deep state that needs to be eradicated or whatever. Well, at either end of the dais here is the deep state for Delanco. These are the people that have the corporate knowledge and the history and the experience that keep this place straight. In the experience here, I was representative for the town for 10 years to the Joint Insurance Fund, and you get to meet people from other towns, and you get to hear, not that often, but some real horror stories of things that are going off the rails in other towns. And would people like Mrs. Lohr, Mr. Schwab, Doug Heinhold, Bev Russell, and the staff that's in the back office there that does so much. Our police department, had the privilege of working with 4 different chiefs and another one, and our staff there, our police officers, second to none, and compassionate. I've had brief glimpses now and then of really the tough work that they do. Last meeting, we heard from the fire company and volunteers that responded to the fire and our officers that rescued the woman off the roof. God, we're lucky. And so it's been a pleasure, it's been a privilege.
Thank you, Mike. I'll need your keys now, please. Yeah, you know, it's
2 more weeks of work.
2 more weeks, okay. You know, everyone knows none of us ever agree on everything total, but you have to put aside that for anyone to spend 18 long years up here, you're either crazy or you really care about the town. It might be a mixture of both, but...
Well, I've pulled this line out a couple times, and I mentioned it to Mr. Heinhold a couple weeks ago after the room got done, that I knew I would finish in a padded room.
Very true.
Yeah, but no, Matt, it's been a pleasure. Your year as mayor, and if I was here in a couple weeks, you get my vote again, so.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. All right. Fern, did you do anything besides your frequent feet walking miles this week,
You know,
this month?
Normally, when you're out walking the town, it's in the fall, or for campaigning and handing out flyers and talking to people, and you see the nice fall decorations throughout the town. Had a different look this past week. So the winter or Christmas holiday decorations, and we got some pretty nice decorations out there in town. I guess it was last night, because I was in Newton's Landing and walking a few of those streets there, and the lights and the decoration, it was a good feeling. So other than that, pass on to the next one.
All right. Thank you, Fern. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, the last 3 weeks are a blur, but
I feel that.
November 19th was my Taylor Design Tree Grant discussion. I don't remember what happened then. To be honest with you.
10:20 at night, you don't remember
That was a
anything
month
right now.
ago. Project management meetings, storage container meetings, camera meetings, we have all that worked out. We have the camera proposal finalized, so we're going to be getting the security cameras replaced within the township building and upgraded, so we have some cloud software, get up with the times. November 27th, we had a code enforcement meeting. I attended virtually, just talked about the various, issues with the different enforcement problems. What else do we have here? December 2nd, I attended a meeting at Taylor Design with Criterion to talk about 450 and 500 as far as what they needed for their planning. Then I went to Florida and got my teeth cleaned, and here we are. That's it.
There we go. I think you did something yesterday at the Christmas Village.
Yeah.
I know that whole day was a blur. And,
the whole weekend was a blur.
Thank you to you and Al and the rest of REC for doing that, because without it, it would have been a wreck. And,
Yeah.
no pun intended. It was,
No, my husband kind of took the lead on that, and he got some of his guys from work to help him decorate, and I don't like the cold, so I went out there very minimally and decorated the tree and barked a lot of orders and pointed and made them rewrap the lights because they weren't tight enough, and somebody hates
it
me
was
for
kind of
that.
like you're at home, Al.
Yeah, But that's
All right.
why it looks so nice, right? Because we had a
Thank
good
you all for
supervisor.
that.
Yeah, thanks. It was really a good time.
I'm going to keep my report nice and short, because it's 10:25, I think that says. I'm usually in bed an hour and a half ago, because I get up early. I attended the Christmas Village yesterday. We did the tree lighting. It was a great event. I tried to go to the sleigh ride the other night. My head was not having it. It was pounding. It was the first year I've missed in quite some time. It's still pounding right now, as a matter of fact. But,
Can't imagine why.
No idea why. This weekend, coming up Saturday, Santa Claus will be around town. We're going to be starting around 11 a.m. Fact check me here, Terry. 11 a.m.?
No, it's 11.
I thought it was 11.
It says 11
Well, we
on the
put 11
flyer.
on the flyer, so we'll.
Yeah.
Well, when you hear the sirens going, we're coming around. We'll be around. So if you go to delancofire.com, there'll be a link at the top for Santa Tracker, and you could find out exactly where in town the big man is. And I think that's all I have to report this evening.
You just did mayor things.
Yeah, I did mayor things the last month.
Yeah,
It's been, I'd like to say quiet, but there was a lot of stuff going on, but there's no need to pontificate at this time. Twice in one
Again
night I
with
use
that
that
word.
word.
There we go. All right, let's get these resolutions
Yep,
done
we
and
have a long
the heck
consent
outta here.
agenda to read, and this will be my last one to read. Thank you, God. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted with a single motion. Any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody needs pulled and discussed separately? Please say no.
No.
Thank you. All right, Resolution 2024-155, authorizing application and execution of fiscal year 2025 Local Recreation Improvement Grant, LRIG. 2024-156, a resolution authorizing the Township of Delanco to enter into a cooperative pricing agreement. Resolution 2024-157, resolution to cancel taxes and refund tax overpayment due to total veteran exemption pursuant to NJSA 54:4-3.30 alpha. Resolution 2024-158, resolution adopting amendments to the Delanco Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual. Resolution 2024-159, authorizing change order number 2 for the Field of Dreams irrigation well installation project. Resolution 2024-160, approving the 2024 budget appropriations transfers. Resolution 2024-161, authorizing the renewal of a contract for emergency medical services to Delran Emergency Squad. Resolution 2024-162, authorizing execution of shared service agreement with the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Burlington for snow removal and associated uses for January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2027. Resolution 2024-163, resolution awarding contract for professional services for Taylor Design Group. 2024-164, resolution awarding contract for professional services, environmental resolutions. Resolution 2024-165, resolution authorizing and directing the execution of a letter of intent with Criterion Group, LLC, for the property at 401 Creek Road. Payment of bills, current fund, $193,060.69. Payroll, $150,000, $545.94. Capital fund, $14,234.66. The puppy fund, otherwise known as the dog fund, $625. Escrow trust, $17,398.07. Cops Cares Trust, $1,333.33. Approval of minutes for October 7th and 21st, November 18th, and December 2nd, 2024. Approval of departmental reports. Can I have a motion, please, to approve that long consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Carolyn, second by Kate. Roll call, please, Janice.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Ms. Sues?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton?
Yes.
And Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. Correspondence, please, Janice.
Yes. We received today, I just want to acknowledge it on the record, a letter from the New Jersey Department of Transportation regarding their alternative set-aside program request for application. This is for those intermodal transportation improvements, highways, of which we don't really qualify for something like that. But I just wanted to acknowledge that we did receive that. We received a letter, an email letter from a Jessica Guerra regarding 401 Creek Road tax impact. We received a letter from Mr. John Piag, W Lane, regarding the tax impact for 401 Creek Road. Everyone did receive those two pieces of correspondence as forwarded emails to you. Sure. To approve that. And that's what I have for correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. All right, meeting is now open to the public for comments and questions. This is session number 2. If you have any comments or questions and you missed the instructions 18 times this evening so far, you're going to approach the podium, give your name and address for the record. Meeting is now open to the public for the last time in 2024. Nothing, Ray? Okay. Good, Chuck. All right. Seeing no one, because everyone wants to be in bed right now, I'll close this portion of the meeting to the public. Thankfully, I see nothing under discussion items here, because I think if we did, we would table them to another meeting. Nobody needs an executive session tonight, do they?
No.
Nope.
Thank you.
Mike, do you want to make the motion to adjourn?
Well, before we adjourn, I think we'd like to wish everybody Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, Happy Holiday, whatever you do, enjoy. And thank you for being
Absolutely.
here tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. With that, I would love a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
No, Mike.
Mike.
Oh, Mike, oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Sorry, Mike. Yeah.
Good try.
No, I'm usually up.
Have a
I'm
very,
up for a while.
very good night and very Merry Christmas and everything else.
Yeah, I know. Sweet. Yeah. Yeah, it went well though.
What's up, Colin?